Let's roll. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Forever Conscious Research Channel. I hope you're doing well today. We are continuing on with the Wayne Bush series in episode 6 after a 9+ hour.
Episode 7, isn't it?
Oops, you're right. Episode 7. I forgot to change the thing up top. Okay. I will do that. I was looking at the top and I have the image. Okay, so yes, it's episode 7 where we're going to be diving into solutions and possible alternatives. And after a 9+ hour stream yesterday, we are back.
We are. So, congratulations to anyone who made it through all the shows and all the hours.
Yeah, and there's been quite a few who've watched every one. So I don't know if everyone was able to watch yesterday yet, but that'll take a couple weeks.
Probably the best one of all.
It was
most important.
It was great. All right, so Wayne, let's dive into where are we starting with Afterlife solutions and possible alternatives to exit the Matrix reincarnation soul trap.
Yeah, I just wanted to make an important note that I'm just an average guy who's a researcher and a philosopher, and I don't pretend to know the truth. I do not know what happens after death. I mean, no one does for certain, in my opinion, and this is just speculation and opinions based on many years of evidence. And I could very well be wrong, but each person needs to go within and see what resonates as truth for them. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to start off quickly with like a follow-up to yesterday. Mm-hmm. Where I had mentioned a Whitley Strieber quote about how he said that during his experience that he wrote in a book that souls are recycled, and so I found that quote. So I just wanted to mention it to you. It's in the book Transformation: The Breakthrough.
Okay.
And he says, he writes, "I cannot forget my memory of the visitor's claim, we recycle souls. It had also been said to other participants. More than one person had seen the visitors in the context of a near-death experience. We recycle souls," they had said. The visitors said, we recycle souls, and of the earth that this is a school. It may be exactly that, a place where souls are growing and evolving towards some form that we can scarcely begin to imagine, end quote. So just wanted to, it's an important quote, so wanted to put it out there.
Yeah,
and
that's a good one.
Yeah. And interestingly, I was interviewed like 4 years ago in January back on, I think, Joe Rupe. I don't know how much pronounce his last name, Rupe, I think. John Rupe's Lighting the Void. And he was interested in my work because he'd interviewed John Lear a couple of weeks earlier. And so he was interested in the light being a trick. So, he's telling his audience that he might have a big guest lined up for the next night. And so during a commercial break, I asked him who it was, and he said Whitley Strieber. So I told him if he gets to interview Whitley, then he should ask him about the light being a trick, because John Lear had told Art Bell it was Whitley who had told him that. So Whitley does indeed come on the show the next night. And so here's the relevant part. It's like a little background. Whitley's wife, Anne, had died recently, and he just written a book about after-death communication with her, and says that she helped him write the book and is still helping him and others. So Joe says, and another question I wanted to ask you, you may not have proof for it, but I want to know what you think. The connection between what happened to you a long time ago and that horrific experience. I talked to Wayne Bush last night about, don't go into the light, it's a trick. And he actually told me, I thought maybe it was either Whitley Strieber said that to John Lear, I don't know. And Whitley said, yeah, I said it. He says, it's not a trick. No, not a trick at all. And most people are going to go into the light, but not all. And some of them will become companions of the light. And the highest state that we can attain is to become a companion of God. And God is, you'd be amazed, God is very humble. God is very approachable. Forget us and he, she, or it does not do that, at least not to the likes of me or Annie. And so Joe says, so then the whole story of our consciousness is trapped here by archons, and we're trying to escape this consciousness. And Whitley laughs loud and he says, don't worry about it. It's good entertainment. It's like enjoying a horror movie, but I just, let it be. I mean, so what if there are archons here? If you have a strong soul, they don't have anything to do with you. They're not going to have anything to do with you. I know a lot of things, secret things in a way. There are negative presences here, and they'd like you to believe that they're all powerful. They have only the power you give them. And how do you give them power? You give them power by entertaining them. If you live through ego, then they have power over you, because when ego starts, when a baby is born, it has no ego, and there's nothing wrong with ego. Ego is a very useful tool. It's a wonderful tool. Don't get me wrong, but it's to be used as a tool. It's not us. What happens is you're given a name, and over the first 6 months or so of your life, you begin to recognize yourself in the context of that name. And, I'm John, I'm Whitley, I'm Ann, I'm whoever. And by the time you're 5 or 6, that name is you, but it's not you. This is something that's happened in your brain, and you've built a personality by reflecting the world and behaviors of the people around you. And over time, the personality will get richer and bigger and more complex, all attached to your name. But it's a brain function. And when the brain dies, it will die. And so, part of us is very scared of dying because that will die, but that won't die. What won't die is the soul, and the soul is there gathering experience through the medium of the body and the personality, the ego. So I wanted to put that out there because I think that's part of the solution right there, is what he just said. It's like, you don't entertain them, don't give them more power. They're there, but if your soul is strong enough, they're not going to have anything to do with you. So I thought a decent way to start the show.
Sure.
out.
Yeah. I mean, it's all they have are smoke and mirrors, illusions, deception, and that's it. That's all they got. But we're also on their playing field. So right now, that's why there's such an issue. So we got to transcend all that and take our power back and realize that, that's all, that the illusions, the deception, the manipulation, the construct here, the construct in the astral that's linked to here, we're on their playing field, but all it takes is waking up and realizing your true power within, and having that sovereign and liberated mindset, I think, is really that in a nutshell. So
yeah, well said. I couldn't agree more. So it's a difficult show. That the solutions is a very difficult question, and so I have written a lot in the past on it. So I've kind of like cobbled together some notes from the past shows that I've done and whatnot. So this probably won't be as organized as maybe some of my other presentations or whatever you want to call them. So
don't worry about it.
Yeah, so I basically said, if one chooses to leave the matrix, several factors need to be considered. What's the nature of our prison, the rules of the game? Is it flat earth and a dome? Is there a grid? Are there holes in the grid? Or is it one of frequency or one of belief and limiting beliefs? Is it our constant curiosity, desire, and craving for new experiences and adventures? What abilities do we have? Are there other more powerful entities that can usurp our sovereignty? Are we at the mercy of a higher power or source called God? Are we characters in the dream of awareness playing roles? Is this whole reality of ours created within our imagination, and we have the power to create or manifest any reality that we set our intention toward? What reality would we create if we had the power to create anyone we wish or imagine? And is our willpower something that needs to be strengthened? So, there's this whole series of questions that we need to figure out. And so, and I think the first thing we need is gnosis, or knowledge. Knowledge that there's something wrong with the system and the need to transcend it all. Then we must recognize our sovereignty and stop giving away our power to external sources who pose as authority, and realize it may not be in our best interest to go to the white light at death, and we can manifest our own afterlife reality or world with an intention and willpower. So, to recognize the religious traps of the saviors and the karma, and if we truly manifest reality with our intention, then if they're successful in manipulating our beliefs and expectations into accepting the one that they present to us, once one decides to go to the alluring light, then they can get us to settle for a much lesser reality, one that caters to their desires, not ours. The guides and counselors and counsels, they encourage us to return to earth over and over again to grow spiritually. That's the mantra that you keep hearing over and over in all these experiences, to evolve and to learn lessons. But, most of the lessons are not applicable on the other side. Why the need to learn love in a place where all there is love? Why the need to grow bigger and brighter and stronger? Isn't that ego? When is enough enough? When does it all end? So
love it. Love it.
Yeah. So I suspect they need to dupe these unsuspecting souls as sacrificial volunteers into coming to this darker part of the yin yang duality of light and dark, good, bad, in order to sustain their higher planes. It may be 2/3 light, dark here to light, but 2/3 light to dark here, or maybe not. Who knows what the ratio is, but the light here is much dimmer and of a lower quality than in the higher realms. So is that stoking the fire to keep the fire burning brighter there? It's kind of analogous to like Satan luring souls to hell, where they burn in hell. Fire is like kindling, and they're damned to hell, or damned, like a dam with the beaver and all that stuff, in hell until they break free. And we may be the kindling that keeps that fire above burning bright. Is that why, Santa or Satan comes down the chimney to the fireplace where the Yule log fire burns? And so it's like earth is hell compared to where we come from. It's the underworld. So if you're bad, Santa will put coal in your stocking, which is hung over the fireplace. And like Santa, the demiurge is capable of giving gifts. So do you think there's a possibility that we really do grow spiritually by coming here? It seems like there would be better systems to do that than a mind wipe and suffering. And if we take something from someone here on earth, we call it stealing. If we do something to someone against their will, we call it assault or rape or murder. To me, karma is a trap. And when we're on the other side, if we get trapped into a loop by our relatives and to entering an avatar to redeem their bad karma, it's like, you don't have to do what your relatives asked you to do. You are you, not your relative. They're not really your relatives anyway. They moved on to whatever they became. And what you're presented instead are just projections from the Akashic records used to convince you into entering this cruel, excuse of a world. Don't do it unless you're, sadomasochistic or whatever. Masochistic, and still projections of your relatives are very convincing. But ask yourself, why would you want to put an avatar through so much suffering? I mean, think of yourself as like a video game player. And one day you realize how cruel it is to make your avatar suffer over and over. But we get addicted to drama and war, and the story we create for our life seems like it will benefit us. But realizing we are using and torturing an avatar to benefit ourselves, and then stopping the torture, we can move on to better playgrounds. Reject your ancestors' bad karma. Let them realize the same thing you've come to realize in your own journey. They'll catch up one fine day and join you, maybe not, when it's all over. In worlds where kindness is the natural state of existence over the drama and war that we have here, there's a better version where cruelty, disease, hunger, and thirst are exponentially more subtle versions of themselves, or the subtle nuance in comparison. We come to this brutal, lesser version of Earth because we want to experience cruelty. But the best thing about getting hit by a hammer to the head is when it stops. Stop choosing to be harsh and brutal to avatars, including your own. That really is the last lesson. Be good to yourself and others, even now. So,
yeah, if you're not caring for yourself, then you really can't care for others. And it's gonna just caring for yourself is it's so important to love yourself, care about yourself, and forgive yourself for anything you may have done in the past. And we're gonna get into a lot more of this in the episode, obviously. But all the attachments, the importance of detaching, working on detaching, knowing what some of your hangups may be, being honest with yourself, and using that as a tool to build up to the moment of natural death, sovereignty, liberation.
Yeah, it's like forgive and forget. It's like forgiveness is like key to like moving on, right? You can't just keep dwelling in the same cycle over and over and over again and beating yourself up over it or others. And so, so some of the things we can do, I mean, I think it's important to prepare while we're still on Earth. I mean, we can prepare for death. We can do meditation, lucid dreaming, OBEs, like we talked about in yesterday's episode, maybe psychedelics if you're so inclined to do it. Also we could theoretically, as the average traveler stated, we may be able to shift realities as a means of escaping this matrix. And so it's just a lot of, you can jump dimensions or shift realities. It's via your perception. I mean, I don't advocate trying to do that necessarily. It's a kind of a dangerous thing, maybe, but
well, I mean, just because you could be dumped into another realm that's just part of here, and who knows, I don't know. I just like to be completely lucid. I like completely lucid decision making. Not half-assing things. Well,
you'd have to set an intention and put protection up around you or something like that. Would have to be. He never really said his techniques for doing it, so and I didn't really ask. But he felt it was too dangerous to share with the world because of not everybody's responsible, So,
maybe.
So he felt like we could transform the Earth matrix by working in small groups, changing reality. And so that's, one of the options out there that could help just manifest a better world. But, it's vitally important to keep one's frequency or vibration high with positive thoughts, meditation, walks in nature, being actively creative through the arts versus passively sitting in front of a television, absorbing what someone who may have ulterior motives wants to tell you, right? So, you raise your frequency as much as possible while alive with, positive thinking, meditation, contemplating about deeper truths, listening to shows like this, maybe doing research. So, most importantly, you got to do the spiritual work needed to overcome the attachments to Earth, as you were saying, and all its trappings of desire, such as greed and materialism, lust, anger and hate, envy, jealousy, fear, regret, remorse, shame, guilt. And we know the list. I mean, there's probably things I didn't think of to include.
I mean, I call it the fear, guilt, shame matrix. I mean,
and on the flip side, you got to avoid things that cater to the ego, such as praise and adoration, fame, wealth. I mean, those are all ego trips, right? So, you should
they anchor you. I mean, I think having your ego's okay. It's just don't let it get ahead of you.
Balance
don't let,
is important.
Keep that balance and know when, realize and be honest with yourself. Again, like we were just mentioning, being honest with yourself and knowing where you stand and not letting it go too far one way, too far the other way. At least that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, I agree. Balance and moderation is key.
Because I think it's impossible to nuke the ego completely while you're still in a body.
Yeah, when I say ego, I'm talking about the lower animal part of man. That's, there's maybe self. We get caught up in words. Words are kind of trappings in and of themselves. Meaning is lost once you label something with a word, and everybody's got their own interpretation of what a word means too. So, but we should let go of fear, regret, remorse, and forgive everyone who's wronged you, and ask forgiveness from those you've hurt. Affirm audibly that any and all soul contracts you've made are null and void. I found a website out there. Somebody had this long.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking
where
about.
You read it through. It was just a great.
I'll just add something I've come to. I mean, this is just me. As far as the forgiveness goes, anything I've done messed up in my life, I've reconciled all of it. But as far as forgiveness on my end, on the flip side, we've talked about this a few times on the channel in the past. Don't believe in any of our series, but unconditional forgiveness and stuff like that of others. The way I see it is if you, first off, if you're expecting it from somebody else, they should want to give it naturally to you. They should want to ask for forgiveness from you naturally on their own. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't have like a resentment towards them, you can, but just make sure it's not digging its claws into you attachment wise that could be used against you. Like a lot of these deathbed, well, not a lot, but a portion of these deathbed visions and visitations. I've seen some really screwed up shit in those.
It just doesn't do you any good to harbor grudges towards people and resentment. I mean, that's lower. It's keeping your frequency low, and it's like you need to like move on and let things go.
Don't harbor it. Yeah, I mean, I just think as far as
you wouldn't want people holding resentment and grudges towards you, that might hold you bound too.
Sure. Yeah, it can't help.
We're connected. So while we're here, we can ignore the archons to deprive them of their energy. And hey, by the way, I dressed for the occasion. I don't think you can see the shirt, but it's like I made this shirt through I don't know what was one of
my favorites
online. So it's like break free, and I thought about putting the website name on the back. It's like
you should.
But so anyway, a better diet, like one without sugar and all that stuff, could also keep the parasites from running rampant in our bodies. There's also the parasite cleanser out there, like Paranix and Zeolite's another one that detoxes heavy metals and stuff. But there's parasite cleansers out there too. And I don't know if I can say the I word like ivermectin or whatever, but if you can get a prescription from a doctor and do a human dosage, I mean that does get rid of parasites. And everybody needs to do their own research and consult their doctors or whatnot. I'm no doctor, so but anyway, and make a bucket list of things you wanted to do, and then do them, so you'll have no regrets or desires to come back to do them. Better off just realize that you don't have to do those things. It's like, but eliminate any and all emotional attachments, including love. Get rid of all addictions, drugs, sex, fun, food, and money. Just purify your thoughts and intentions. Do acts of loving kindness with others and for others. It would help to do a mock life review of yourself and go through everything in your life, so that if it spontaneously comes up, then you're not going to be. You've already thought it through, and you've already let go of all that stuff and forgiven yourself for anything you might have done.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, if you end up being dumped into it, I still think everyone will kind of travel there, but we've seen NDEs where they kind of are dumped into it. So,
there's people that are just sitting out there in the void, and all of a sudden it just comes up out of nowhere. It doesn't even have to be a counselor or anybody like presenting it to you. So, it's just good to be prepared.
Active measure. For sure.
Yeah, preventative measures, and just it's best to do it here, because your thoughts and intentions don't automatically manifest right now. I mean, so it's like if you can get it out of your system here, then you won't have to encounter that in the afterlife, where everything's a little more what's the word? Not fluid, but just responsive. Mm-hmm. So, repeat the review until you have no more reaction to it. You don't want to be crying about stuff, especially an emotional reaction. So just get through and process all that stuff.
Lead to
so if you do it enough to where you're not going to
intention.
cry about it or have sad feelings about it, that's ideal. So here's an important one. That's like this section on exit strategy and like a mission statement. Like, to have a detailed exit strategy, you got to think this stuff through and what you want to do, or an escape plan of your intentions, with contingencies thought out before you die. So like, what if you did somehow end up in front of the light being and he's asking you questions, or they're showing you a life review? So you got to maybe have answers. Like when my friend, when they said, what did you think about love? And he said, no, I've never been married. I never had any kids. Boom. And he's automatically gone. Yeah. I mean, it's, maybe it's too late at that point. I mean, I don't know. I mean, hopefully you can just stop the process at any point. And
I think you can dip out of the life review. The problem is if that love bomb, if that's present, that may be an issue. But I really think, just like kind of what we were saying, I think all these steps are great for preparing, and incredible advice, Wayne. I just think just make sure, and everyone do what they got to do. But I think
by doing it, you're feeding them, you're giving them power by feeding them energy. Just entertaining the thought of its possibility is very
its power.
Detrimental. It's giving it power. So
it's a joke. I always look at this, everything as a joke. It's all illusions, deception, manipulation. It doesn't hold power over me, period.
But it's not a bad thing to just like do it once and then let it go and forget about it, kind of thing. Don't just keep doing it over and over every day, because then you can become consumed by it. And like the astral traveler, I mean, he had a lot of great tips and tricks about put up the mind shield and all the mind helmet and all that kind of stuff. But the more you're like every day in a battle with these archons, it's almost like he gets off on it and he loves doing it. And it's like that's a trap in and of itself. It's like the best thing is to just dismiss them and go, I'm never going to see them. No worries about it. So anyway,
love it.
Thoughts. So if your plan is to create a new reality of your choice, or to go to a realm that you have in mind, then write up a very specific description of this reality. Try to phrase it in an all positive way. For example, instead of saying no death, say live as long as I like. You know what I'm saying? Keep out the negative words like no, because if you get online and like Google and you put in a search term like no serial killers or something like that, what's going to pop up? A bunch of serial killers, right? It's just, and actually the best thing is not even use words at all, just pure thought and impressions and imagination. So, because words have been spelled, right? And so try not to think in words or use words. So, we're like the idea of like saying to you not to think of a pink elephant. And so what are you going to think of? You're going to think of a pink elephant. So this is important. Set up a shield of protection immediately to protect oneself from any entities intruding in your space. Set an intention that they can't be seen or heard. That's vitally important. I know you mentioned that one in one of the previous episodes, and it's critical. I mean, it's the very first thing you should probably do is set up
shield
protection.
Shield up immediately.
Yeah. So then if one wishes, set an intention to you can sit there and stay in the void or wherever you are as long as you want. Maybe memories will come back to you about where we originated and all that stuff. But if one wishes, set an intention to manifest or go to whatever world one wishes to go to. That is one that's ideal and better or best in all aspects. A tunnel or portal is not needed to travel. We can teleport instantly anywhere we choose. A tunnel may appear to manifest if, once we set the intention or whatever, and that's okay if we choose the intent ourselves. So
that was one I took out after doing some thinking, because who knows? It's just the intention is all that matters. It's all that matters.
Right. So if going to the void is your intention, then have a plan to clear your thoughts and feelings. And the void could be darkness, clear light, maybe even a balance of light and dark, whatever resonates with you. as I said, we should create a mission statement of sorts while alive and memorize and use it. It's not, it's best not to use English language, but you set a pure intention of imagination or images from the mind's eye, and avoid using words completely. Rather use mental pictures or ideas, pure intention, pure imagination, pure awareness, and then execute that plan immediately upon death. So don't give anyone a chance to come around and,
Yeah, no, I think I just want to add that wherever that intention is, whether it's a void state or a partial dark and light state, like you were mentioning, I still think everything should be like it's our creation. It's yes. Our impenetrable zone and realm, so that, we're not plopping into something else's realm. Maybe someone might want a couple of trees or a beach or something like that. Personally, I just think a black void, just to be able to relax and let things collect and come in, is my choice in a realm of my design that cannot. It's the actual structure of the realm itself is impenetrable. It's my creation, just like you would have your creation, everyone else would have their creation. But that's it. I just think it should just be ours.
But you got to know what you're creating. Otherwise, you get there and you're like, should I create? I'm saying that haven't thought out. And it's like, be very specific. I mean, and that's not an easy thing, man. It's like you only know the choices that we have down here, where everything's dirty and polluted, and it's like, so it's not an easy task thinking about that. What do you really want? And I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea if you're like a painter or something, or you're creating music. I mean, you have some experience with creating something,
artistic expression,
being artistic. So that,
I think, that's why for me, I'm going to do the void type state, with no real distraction, a realm of my making, I teleport there, and then then give myself some time, and then maybe I could start.
Additional memories might come back, or if you set intentions on remembering, you may get all that stuff, or you may just find it totally blissful and content, and just like some of these near-death experiencers say, it's like they never ever. They could have stayed there forever, and they would have been completely content. I mean, what else do you really need more than just contentment and peace? And do you really need to go off and create a bunch of worlds where there's drama? And it's like, to me, that's like starting the whole
falling right back into it.
It may be like a lower frequency or something, which, I've said in the past that setting one's intention with an internal mantra of like higher frequency now might be a good option, but I'm not so sure frequency is a good thing, since it implies vibration, and movement may result in the creation of the space and time, since it's like a displacement or change from one spot to another, which would also apply time. So
I know William Ballman says higher self now.
Higher frequency. That's a little risky in my. I mean, I'm not saying it's not good, but
that's what we're here to talk about it. That's cool.
Yeah,
I got you. Makes sense to me.
Well, higher frequency than this is. I mean, if you're going, I'm just saying we may even want to go to the point where there's like no frequency. I mean, no vibration. It's all I'm
saying. Transcend just pure, unadulterated existence.
Yeah, I don't know. So, this new age idea of ascension and higher dimensions may also be, faulty or kind of a trap in and of itself. So like no space and no time would be like a zero dimension or a 0 point, where it's like a potential energy versus the kinetic energy of everything going on around. So it kind of gets too scientific for me to rely on my scientific knowledge, so using terms like frequency and all that. I mean, maybe it depends on how you define it yourself. So maybe it doesn't matter, but
I think that's a good point, because I don't buy into the whole raising frequency thing, stuff like that. I mean, I just think we go from this low density existence to our more natural self. And, then there's different frequencies that relate to realms and maybe various beings, because we hear these people all the time saying, oh, well, they were vibrating at a higher frequency, or they, uh, sixth density, seventh density, la da 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 da, on and on and on. You know, just the way I see it is just do your thing. You know, and just
it just seems to be a new age popular
Absolutely.
thing, and anything that's like being pushed by the new age movement, it's like you got to stand back and question it. So,
100%. Yeah, it's total new age shit. 100%.
Yeah, and so even like concepts like good, you know, it's like I'd like a good reality or a good plan. You know, it's like it may also be a trap too because it implies duality, right? I mean, how can something be? I mean, I don't know.
Great point.
And like even light, you know, itself, because you know, light's duality, so light and dark and all this. There's relativity and applied there. So, you know, in source, the word source sounds too much like saurus, like the lizard, like in Greek, you know, dinosaur, the Tyrannosaurus, you know, source. I mean, say the word saurus, like the Tyrannosaurus, say the word saurus, and it sounds so close to the word source. It's just, I don't know. To me, it's you know, a lot of people say, go return to source, go back to source. It's like,
do you ever run an etymology check on that? I never even thought about it.
I'm sure there's a connection. There has to be.
I'll take a look while you're going here. Let's say. I
mean, whether or not somebody's uncovered it. I mean, just because, you know, yeah, who knows where the word came from? I guess somebody has researched it. But so, you know, even emptiness or null might be an option to consider. You know, perhaps what the Tibetans called the clear light of the void. I just got a bunch of like different random notes here, so it's maybe not be so congruent or anything, but avoid entities, avoid spirits that may impersonate loved ones or friends, avoid spirits that may impersonate deities or religious figures. Do not be scared of any entities. They have no power over you. They're just external projections from within, figments of your imagination. If you find you can't will them away, then you do have abilities such as teleportation, you know, super speed, shields of protection. But I mentioned that one dream I had where this big ogre like came towards me and had his arm outstretched. And he was just going to like crush me or whatever. And I went up to him and I just gave him a hug and he just disappeared.
Can't handle the love.
So yeah,
can't handle the hug.
So, yeah, I was going to say, as an absolutely last resort, if you're in a desperate situation, and this is only an extreme, dire straits thing, but you can always call on the light or create your own light better, use your own light. And if you find yourself like in a hellish realm or something for me, but to me, that's just a crazy, crazy backup plan. And I would call on like the purest light of the eternal light realm or something like that. But I hesitate to even mention any of that because it's just not a great idea. It's like a last resort. That's like scraping the barrel kind of thing. Oh, call it on the light, you know. But
so what are you saying? If you feel like you can't get out or something?
Yeah, like the one lady who was in the void or whatever, and like all these beings were just attacking her and stuff like that. And I mean, first you go to your own power, but I'm saying if you find out your own power and your own intention and your own willpower and stuff is not enough, and you're in a hell-like situation, I mean, then you know, or you could call on a light or a Holy Spirit or something like that. I mean, it's just I'm not saying it. I know I shouldn't even said it.
No, that's all right.
It's probably just everybody. I knew he was a shill.
No. I get why you left that there. Yeah, we know your true intention, Wayne. You know, you're just putting it all on the table. That's all. I got you.
Right. Yeah. So probably be repeating myself a lot, you know, whatever. So like set intention to go or manifest your ideal afterlife. If you find yourself in front of a council or archons wanting to review your life, plan your next life stuff, just teleport away to your ideal afterlife and mention the mission statement. But like I said before, it's like one of the most important endeavors of all, besides working on one spiritual level, is to have a very clear, specific idea of what we want the afterlife to be. So it's best to be memorized and able to be kind of recalled or recited as like second nature. And something along the lines like, I intend a world where all beings are always kind, with perfect physical, emotional, and mental health, and abilities to manifest whatever I want instantly, always aware, perfect wisdom, peaceful, content, you know, with sustenance of abundance energy from the cosmic source, and you're free. I mean, just positive words like that instead. but you got to think it all out, to where you don't have any hiccups or, oops, I forgot that.
Yeah.
But
100%.
it could always adjust it on the fly, right? So if you forget something, just
be
don't like that
direct.
part, be gone.
Just be direct. Just have that intention be firing at all times, and have it make sure it's coming from, let's just say, the heart, the astral heart, or the true essence heart, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
You mean what you're directing.
Yeah, and in fact, do not allow them to direct your attention in a direction that will like set you up into returning. Like they may ask you the questions like, "Did you learn enough about love?" And your answer would be yes, to indicate closure and the will to move on. So
I mean, if they start, if they, I don't see it ever happening. It's just not allowed. But if a life review were ever to initiate for whoever, I would just say, let's see your fucking life review. Let's see what's going on with you.
I would just say, what's the point? It's what's done is done. Yeah. It's in the past. It's like I would just try to basically kind of ignore it. Like you don't feed into their,
don't
like
engage
they ask you questions.
Yeah.
Don't engage it. Don't answer.
100%.
Don't answer in a limiting manner. Like if you say something like, if they say, what did you think of your life? And you say something like, well, I enjoyed playing guitar. Don't sabotage yourself by something like, I wish I would have started at a younger age, or I wish I would have started my own band. It's like all that stuff is just the death sentence, man. It's like, don't do that.
Just do not engage.
Unless you want to go back and start her up. More power to you, whatever.
Yeah, just don't engage. Just they are worthless illusions.
Those are like setup questions. Those are like they're setups. It's like, so if you say, oh, I never got married, or I never found my soulmate, I wish I could have had kids, it's like, don't do it. There's like, it's no regrets. Like setting a wish like that may immediately cause you to return to Earth, or set the process up. Yeah. Yeah. So,
the key thing is just they don't exist. They're just completely worthless. illusions.
Don't let them con you into accepting some karmic system of something like a social credit score. I mean, they try to tell you that you need to learn or grow spiritually, and that Earth is one of the fastest ways to do it. And there should be a better, more positive. I mean, if you did need to learn for whatever reason, there should be a better, more positive, more loving and compassionate way of teaching a lesson. So it's like, I don't, which I don't think is the case at all. I think if we're infinite spirit, it's like, how many of those NDEs where it's like, oh, I knew everything. It's like, he said, I knew all truth, right? It's like, if you know all truth and everything, it's like, why would you come to a planet like this to learn? A planet like this? Are you kidding me? It's like, if you want to unlearn, if you want to forget everything, all those spiritual truths that you knew to begin with, you come to a place where everybody around you is basically brainwashing you into doing horrible things. It's like you're degrading your spirit by doing it almost, you know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't know. So they may try to convince you that it's for spiritual growth or to become brighter. And it's, how much is enough? How bright do we need to be, until we're satisfied? I mean, you need to become as bright as the sun, become a planet, a star, a supernova, a solar system, a galaxy, a galactic cluster, a super. I mean, when does it end? The entire universe. That could take millions and billions of years to go through all that supposed evolution, right? And
absolute nightmare. I'm just thinking about that case yesterday you brought up, where the person said, I think, or the spirit said something like over 1 million different lifetimes. I was like, what? And you're like a cockroach. I mean, the horrors, the absolute horrors.
A million. Can you imagine? Don't imagine.
No,
that's what I'm trying to say. Don't imagine that. So do not fall for the New Age teaching, return and merge with source and all that. It's like, we can remain individual, creative, sovereign spirits. I mean, the key, once we reach the higher, better, more positive realms, is to always remember what we learned. And that is that we do not wish to incarnate in these lower systems where there's all the pain and suffering and creatures feed off each other, and, everything's so selfish, and you're hurting others and they're hurting you. But it's, even at the higher realms, it's starting a fall of sorts, to where you always want a little more fun,
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
more challenge, and I don't know.
Descending more and more into your own deep illusion and attachments, really.
So don't
like
forget
like an
where you,
addict, really.
yeah. So don't forget where you came from or what you truly are, spirit. And so, yeah. So I don't know if this is just a few of the things. It's, it's not a hero's journey as much as Joseph Campbell would like to convince you it is. That's an appeal to ego. Oh, a hero's journey. You're a hero. Yeah. That's
just like you got a mission.
That's one of the biggest trap falls right there. Is we need you to go back to save everybody. There's all these people, lost souls down there. They need saving. And boy, you're so knowledgeable and you did so well last time. And think of how many more you can save. It's like, nah, I don't think so.
You are the only one up for the task. It's time for you to go. Get down there and save people. Spirit.
It's just infinite spirit being creative and purposely limiting yourself in order to go have an experience and an adventure with challenges, so you can be surprised. Because knowing everything is there's no surprise, and what's the fun in that, right? So it's like you play a game and you're in God mode, and it's boring and too easy. But we got to be careful not to get lost in this like labyrinth of creations. And once we transcend, we need to remain ever aware of these pitfalls of falling. So
I was thinking about the hero's journey. I remember early on when I was waking up and going through all this spiritual just endless crap, and I ran across Campbell's interview, I think at like George Lucas's ranch or something like that. I mean, it's just never really no.
Oh, he heavily influenced George Lucas and the whole Star Wars thing about the hero and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that was taken right from. Was it? Then they go to like the same university or something. Maybe I got them mixed up with somebody else.
It's been years since I watched it, but I think there was some sort of connection there. But don't quote me on that. I think you're right. Something like that.
So I was actually going to revisit like yesterday when we're reading the William Buellman quote. There was one quote in particular, and then what he said at that conference, and I think it's very applicable for this show here. So I was going to cover that. I don't know like how close we're getting to a break or whatnot.
Yeah, know what? We're probably approaching an hour. Is it got
it's not that long.
Oh, then
go
for it. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So he said in his he said
take as much time as you need.
No, it's not that long. So he said I'm often asked what I will do when I take my final breath. And William Buellman, he's a guy that's had a bunch of I think hundreds of out of bodies experiences himself. But he did a survey of like 15 or 16,000 astral projectors, and so he knows a lot about this topic. So he said, I'm often asked what I will do when I take my final breath. This is a critically important question that too few people ask themselves these days. My answer is this: I will demand to experience my higher self, my spiritual essence. I'm not content to simply go to the light. I'm not content to accept past acquaintances and comfortable surroundings as my new reality. In fact, I am not content to settle for any form-based reality as my spiritual home. I absolutely know there is so much more available beyond the realms of form. There exist dimensions of magnificent living light simply waiting for us. All we need to do is awaken and accept the reality. Two powerful truths are apparent. First, all form is but a reflection of pure spirit. Second, we are not helpless victims of an external force that dictates or directs our reality and our lives. We are bestowed with the power of free will and the ability to take spiritual action. Why would you settle for a pale reflection of reality when the pure realms of spirit are always present? So that's just a beautiful quote. It's like anything else is just you're playing reindeer games, right? You're playing games of hide and seek with yourself, and maybe it's fun for a while, but at some point it stops being fun.
I guess the only edit I would put in there is I wouldn't be asking. It's just direct intention. It's just the way it's going to be.
Well, he was just asking.
But I know.
It's a more rhetorical question or whatever. that wasn't his
technicality.
intention that he said it. Like if he
Yeah.
goes to set his intention, he won't be asking questions.
Yeah, that's true.
I guarantee you that much.
Yeah. Good point.
So So and just to follow up, he had this afterlife. Well, he gave a lecture at the Afterlife Awareness Conference in 2015. And he said, we've lost a lot of the ancient traditions and knowledge, but one of the ones that I found that resonated with me, and I'm going to share this very quickly, was a Buddhist trend, the Buddhist approach. And I'm not a Buddhist, but I really appreciate the idea of how they handle death and their concept of the bardos, and how your thoughts create your reality after death. And that resonated with me because I know it was true. So I did some study, quite a bit of study, and it's clear to me that the Buddhists had a very clear way of handling death that we have lost. When someone dies in Tibetan Buddhism, a monk or several monks will be next to the person dying, and they will chant for days and days next to the person that is about to make this great transition of consciousness that we call death. They will chant, "Go to the clear light of the void, go to the clear light of the void, go to the clear light of the void." They're instructing this person on their journey of consciousness to go beyond all form-based realities. Think of this for a moment. Nowhere do we teach this in our culture. We talk about surrounding yourself with love and going to the light, but they have a very enlightened approach to this, I find. Go beyond, go to the clear light of the void, which means go beyond all form-based realities, go beyond the bardos, go beyond the astral. What today we commonly refer to in metaphysical literature as the astral plane, and it's various millions of consensus realities that exist. They instruct their loved ones to bypass all the form-based realities that we take for granted as our heaven or home. He says, is it possible that we ask too little of ourselves? Is it possible we've lost some primary skills that are so important to our entire evolutionary process? And I think that's exactly what has happened. We have the ability to do so much more than just provide comfort for our loved ones and provide a loving environment. That's all positive, but I think we can take it to another level through an enlightened approach to the whole concept of death, because there's no end. I know from having 41 years of out-of-body experiences that there's no such thing as death. It's just a continuation. We all take it with us, our entire state of consciousness. And the very last thing he says, and as I said at this panel just a moment ago, if we believe that we're spiritual beings, and almost all of us do, and if we believe that we shape and mold our reality, as most of us feel we do, then why in the world don't we have the ability to shape and mold the non-physical thought responsive universe that we enter into at the moment of our death? Of course we do. This is what the Buddhists have been talking about for 1400 years, that the Tibetan Book of the Dead it's focused on this concept that the bardos, or these non-physical consensus realities, are thought responsive, and it's up to us to empower ourselves to take command of our state of consciousness and our reality, not only in this life, but in the afterlife as well. We're not victims at death. We are the proactive creator of our reality, but this is only as powerful as you internalize within yourself. If you feel at the moment of death that you were a victim and you must just follow whatever belief system that you've identified with, then that's truly what you are. But we're so much more than that. We have so much more capability if we exercise it.
Love
so
it.
Beautiful. So
Love
beautiful.
It. I mean, he's when I first ran across that lecture, I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's a jaw dropper.
And I immediately did a commentary on it. It's in the chat for anyone interested. So feel free to check it out later, save it for later. And just as a reminder to everyone out there, Wayne's website is trickedbythelight.com. That's trickedbythelight.com. If you haven't been there yet, you're missing out on a lot. So give it a look. It's just loaded with information. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, a couple decades of work, Wayne. I mean, my respect
more than
for
that.
you. And
the website's been up for 2 decades. I mean, probably
research.
I did a decade of research before that.
So you're looking at 3 decades of research and 2 decades of having the site up. Of 2 of the 3 having the website.
Well, I put it up in like 2002, and then I took it down because nobody was interested.
Yeah, no, leave it up.
Then I put it back up in like March or May of 2012.
Yeah, I want to back up your website just in case to have it. I saved a few pages, but I want to save the whole thing.
Right.
All right, was there anything else to add with William
No,
Bones?
not with William.
Okay. All right. So I think that's a good break point for us.
Sure.
All right, my friends, we'll be right back in about 5 minutes. Again, Wayne's website, trickedbythelight.com. There's also backup channels here on YouTube for my channel. So feel free to subscribe to those and hit the bell just in case something ever were to happen here. That's a good place to have, good place to be subscribed, because I'll send out notifications should anything happen there. I'm not going to annoy you or bother you on there, but you never know. So, okay, so we'll take 5 minutes and we'll see you all in a moment. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
See you in a minute. Thank you. Just be muting.
Yep.
Thanks. All right, my friends, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed a brief break. And so, Wayne, where are we headed next, my friend?
I'm just going to keep plowing through this hodgepodge of notes I got here.
Great,
but
great.
Talk a little more about like the fall and this kind of illusion that we're in. And I wanted to mention the philosopher Alan Watts. He had some interesting lectures and stuff. So one thing in particular he said that I thought was pretty insightful. He said, so then if you awaken from this illusion and you understand that black implies white, self implies other, life implies death, or shall I say death implies life, you can conceive yourself, not conceive, but feel yourself, not as a stranger in the world, not as someone here on sufferance, on probation, not as something that has arrived here by fluke, but you can begin to feel your own existence as absolutely fundamental. What you are basically deep, deep down, far, far in is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. So say in Hindu mythology, they say the world is the drama of God. God is not something in Hindu mythology with a white beard that sits on a throne that has royal prerogatives. God in Indian mythology is the self, Satchitananda, which means Sat, that which is, Chit, consciousness, Nanda is bliss. In other words, what exists, reality itself is gorgeous. It's the fullness of total joy. And all those stars, if you look out in the sky, it's a firework display like you see on the 4th of July, which is a great occasion for celebration. The universe is a celebration. It's a fireworks show to celebrate that existence is. And then they say, but however, there's no point in just sustaining bliss. Let's suppose you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream, and that you could, for example, have the power to dream in one night 75 years worth of time, or any length of time you wanted to have. And you would naturally, as you began on this adventure of dreams, fulfill all your wishes. You would have every kind of pleasure you could conceive. And after several nights of 75 years of total pleasure each, you would say, well, that was pretty great, but now let's have a surprise. Let's have a dream which isn't under control, where something's going to happen to me that I don't know what's going to be. And you would dig that and come out of it and say, that was a close shave. now, wasn't it? Then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further gambles as to what you would dream. And finally, you would dream where you are now. You would dream the dream of the life that you're actually living today. That would be within the infinite multiplicity of the choices you would have of playing that you weren't God, because the whole nature of the Godhead, according to this idea, is to play that he's not. The first thing that he says to himself is, man, get lost, because he gives himself away. The nature of love is self-abandonment, not clinging to oneself. Throwing yourself out, for instance, basketball.
I said, I like that.
Oh, yeah. He says, you're always getting rid of the ball. You say to the other fellow, have a ball. See? And that keeps things moving. That's the nature of life. So in this idea, then, everybody is fundamentally the ultimate reality. Not God in a politically kingly sense, but God in the sense of being the self, the deep down basic whatever there is. And you're all that, only you're pretending you're not. And it's perfectly okay to pretend you're not, to be perfectly convinced, because this is the whole notion of drama. When you come into the theater, there's an arch and a stage, and down there is the audience. Everybody assumes their seats in the theater, go to see a comedy, a tragedy, a thriller, whatever it is. And they all know as they come in and pay their admissions that what is going to happen on the stage is not for real. But the actors have a conspiracy against this, because they're going to try and persuade the audience that what is happening on the stage is for real. They want to get everybody sitting on the edge of their chairs. They want you terrified or crying or laughing, absolutely captivated by the drama. And if a skillful human actor can take in an audience and make people cry, think what the cosmic actor can do. Why, he can take himself in completely. He can play so much for real that he thinks he really is. Like you sitting in this room, you think you're really here. Well, you've persuaded yourself that way. You've acted so damn well that you know that this is the real world, but you're playing it as well. The audience and the actor is one, because behind the stage is the green room, off scene, where the actors take off their masks. Do you know what the word person means, mask? The persona is the mask worn by actors in Greco-Roman drama, because it has a megaphone type mouth, which throws the sound out in an open air theater. So the per, through, sona, what the sound becomes, through. That's the mask. How to be a real person, how to be a genuine fake. So the dramatis persona at the beginning of a play is the list of masks that the actors will wear. And so in the course of forgetting that this world is a drama, the word for the role, the word for the mask has come to mean who you are genuinely, the person, the proper person. Incidentally, the word parson is derived from the word person, the person of the village. Anyway, so he says, this is a drama, and what I want you to is, I'm not trying to sell you on this idea in the sense of converting you to it. I want you to play with it. I want you to think of its possibilities. I'm not trying to prove it. I'm just putting it forward as a possibility of life to think about. So then this means you're not victims of a scheme of things, of a mechanical world, or of an autocratic God. The life you're living is what you have put yourself into, only you don't want to admit it because you want to play the game that it's happened to you. In other words, I got mixed up in this world. I had a father who got hot pants over a girl, and she was my mother because he was just a horny old man. And as a result of that, I got born, and I blame him for it and say, well, that's your fault. You've got to look after me. And he says, I don't see why I should look after you. You're just a result. But let's suppose we admit that I really wanted to get born, and that I was the ugly gleam in my father's eye when he approached my mother. That was me. I was desire. And I deliberately got involved in this thing. Look at it that way instead. And that really, even if I got myself in an awful mess and I got born with syphilis and the Great Siberian Itch and tuberculosis in a Nazi concentration camp. Nevertheless, this was a game which was very far out play. It was kind of a cosmic masochism, but I did it. Isn't that an optimal game rule for life? Because if you play life on the supposition that you're a helpless little puppet that got involved, or you played on the supposition that it's a frightful, serious risk and that we really ought to do something about it and so on, it's a drag. There's no point in going on living unless we make the assumption that the situation of life is optimal, that really and truly we're all in a state of total bliss and delight, but we're going to pretend we aren't just for kicks. In other words, you play non-bliss in order to be able to experience bliss. And you can go as far out in non-bliss as you want to go. And when you wake up, it'll be great. You know, you can slam yourself on the head with a hammer because it's so nice when you stop, and makes you realize how great things are when you forget that's the way it is. And just like that, just like black and white, you don't know black unless you know white. You don't know white unless you know black. It's simply fundamental. I don't know. I mean, I don't agree with 100% with every little thing he says, obviously, but gets you thinking.
Watts was an interesting one.
Yeah. So
my personal opinion controlled, but that's just me.
Yeah, when I first stumbled on his stuff, it's like, wow, man, it's saying everything I think. And it's like, I must be the reincarnation of him or something. But then once you get too much into it, it's like it becomes super duper depressing, man. It's like, oh my God.
Big time. Yeah.
I guess like everything else, take it in balance and moderation and take the parts that resonate with you and leave what doesn't. And
100%, Wayne. 100%. I'm with you.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess the next thing in my notes, I was a bunch of stuff on like on duality and non-duality and the so-called void, which is limitless. So it's like, we seem to live in a world of duality where reality appears to oscillate between two extremes of polarity, like light and dark, night and day, black and white, good and evil, God and the devil, heaven and hell, on and off, dead or alive, action and action. It just goes on, male and female, love, hate, true, false. The binary ones and zeros of the digital computer, finite and infinite, something and nothing. But what about opposites such as something and nothing, like wholeness and parts, or whole and whole, fullness and emptiness? Like duality is an illusion, the illusion of separation. And thus, there's no true separation between the so-called emptiness or void and fullness or completeness. We shouldn't think of the void as empty any more than we think of the void as being full. It's a full void or a pregnant void. Also, as we'll see when we look at these dozens of near-death experiences in the void, and also how physicists are currently describing the 99.999% empty space around us in the 0 point field. And when you see the term void, we tend to think of it as emptiness, but this is not the whole story. So like every time you see the word void in this article, remember to think of it as a full void. It's a misnomer. So there are many names for it, such as luminous emptiness, the illuminating void, and the infinite void, but essentially it's non-duality. And Hindus, Buddhists, and Gnostics have talked about the reincarnation trap and the need for liberation for millennia now. So it's really nothing new. It's just it's just that the near-death experience in going to the light is relatively recent. There are a lot of people who are aware of the light trap now, and the first step is waking up from this dream state we're in and realizing our true nature and what is going on here. But it's only the first part of the equation. It's extremely important to work on oneself while in this earth plane in order to deprogram from the systems in which we've been indoctrinated. We need to free our minds and spirit from the addictive patterns that the culture helps to promote. In order to break free and move on after death, we need to no longer be attached to the world and its cares. This may include not only breaking the obvious harmful addictions associated with the ego, such as fear, anger, hate, greed, power, lust, envy, materialism, pride, selfishness, etc., but also maybe even the need to be loved and give love is another addiction. Acting in kindness toward all humans is encouraged, but is love and an emotional attachment? I think attachments to loved ones may keep us bound just as much. Attachments to the need to worship or praise a God could fall into this category as well. It's okay to enjoy things in the world in moderation because that maintains a healthy balance, and it could be about the journey and not the destination. But remember to be in the world and not of the world.
Yeah. I mean, that's linking those attachments. Yep. Be in the world because you're here. You got to do what you got to do. Every day we wake up, we still have these meat suits on, and until natural death, just be aware. Be aware.
Yeah. So I mean, this is stuff I've written. I don't know how long ago, 2-3 years or whatever, but
nice.
Maybe I'll revise if I read something I don't agree with it. It's like,
sure.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, you can always make a citation.
What was I thinking back then? But anyway, we'll see.
Hey, my thoughts on all sorts of things have evolved, so it's only natural. You gotta evolve with the time and as more gnosis is gained.
Yeah, you're always adding more and more nuances to the thing. So. One needs to have an exit strategy or escape plan in place for when one dies, or at least have thought about it. I think there are several options available. One could remain in the void or darkness without panicking and realize that it's very peaceful, and hope that one can remain there for eternity. It won't get boring. You won't eventually run out of energy and need to find energy at some point to sustain yourself. I said, perhaps in a vacuum, energy doesn't dissipate and energy cannot be destroyed. But One could choose to go to the light and take a chance that the beings there will not force you or convince you to come back, whether immediately or eventually. Perhaps they'll agree to graduate you, or you could negotiate a better place to go to. Another option would be to start out in the void and then set your intention on manifesting an all positive or mostly positive place of your imagining, whether it's one of your own invention or original source, the Paroma, eternal light realms, the Buddha planes, or on an ideal such as just truth, goodness, pure light, love, or whatever else resonates within you. One could just set their intention on moving inward and or raising in frequency, but perhaps true liberation lies beyond the waves and frequency altogether. So
yeah.
I guess I kind of mentioned that earlier. So I think it's important to note that if one doesn't go to the light, one might find oneself in a void or dark place, and that one shouldn't be afraid of it necessarily and freak out, which could likely result in scary projections and hallucinations. But be prepared that it might happen, and realize that it's the true nature of our being, unless, of course, there's a fake void. I wasn't thinking so much about fake voids back then, but furthermore, it's important to have thought about what you want to do, whether to stay in that peaceful, formless state forever or take on a form and project one. And if so, in what kind of world? All there is in the world is just forms of pure awareness, beingness, and it's important to understand and experience this awareness here on Earth while we are alive in order not to fall into illusions of separate self and have false beliefs in the separate reality of the forms. So many near-death experiencers do find themselves immediately in complete darkness or a void-like place. One thing I've noticed about the void experiences is that the quality of the experience depends on the state of the individual having it. Most find the void to be very peaceful and pleasant. I estimate that between 2/3 and 3/4 of the void experiences seem to be pleasant and peaceful. I think Von Pimmel mentioned 85% or something. But anyway, the void is neutrality and is a choice, including the choice of staying in this state or perhaps immediately manifesting any experience one would like. Some are not prepared to be in such an empty place by themselves alone with their consciousness.
Yeah,
so some react in some react in fear and manifest an unpleasant experience. So they start in the void, and then not recognizing the clear light of awareness and the illusion of their self, they interpret the void as darkness and loneliness. And it's like a fearful thing. And the fear and desperation start, and evocates their fears. The fears start manifesting into a hellish environment. And so it's critically important not to panic if you find yourself in a darkness or void. It's maybe just be your true nature. So if you don't recognize the fundamental nature of your awareness or being, and we're kind of getting into the Tibetan, the Buddhism type stuff at this point. So you will always be looking for some experiences and places for the truth. God, love, rapture, samadhi, you name it. But those are all forms. They always change, come and go. They're not permanent. And they're just what happens in the dream that appears in awareness. So I think it's important. Kind of we're leaning right now towards like it's just staying in the void, recollect all our knowledge and experiences, past lives if possible, and make a conscious choice on what we want to do next. And whether to stay there for as long as we wish or to move to and join some other higher realms or pure lands, whatever you want to call it, by intention and raising the vibration, or perhaps simply manifest a world and place to live for ourselves and stay there. I think there's always a choice to stay there in pure void for good. And that would exactly be Buddha's nibbana or samadhi, which is abiding in nothing else than pure formless awareness. You can choose to remain in that peaceful state forever if you like. There's a state of pure formless awareness, beingness with no mental activity. As Buddha explained, there are various states of consciousness on the way of ascending as he experienced them himself. And the intermediate ones are very joyful and blissful. But then the emotion of joy fades away, and what is left is just simple, peaceful, motionless awareness.
Boom.
And in Advaita, they also describe samadhi as a state of emotionless and thoughtless peace of abiding in pure awareness. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into the Buddhist type stuff, but
it's just it's good to bring up because it's been there. You know, you have Hinduism, you have Buddhism, you have Gnosticism. It can even offshoot into other things too, but it's there, and it's nothing new. Humanity has thought about this for who knows how long and dug deep within themselves, within groups, within scripture, within whatever. However they're coming to this, or just realizing the reality around them and questioning it from our kind of standpoint, obviously.
Yeah.
But how they get to it, who knows? But I've posed a question in the past where, if you think about the person who, before, we're in a moment in time where we are so incredibly we have so much access to information that I am so thankful, because I know, we've talked, we're both more of the analytical mindset, but we have that deeply spiritual side within us. And all I think about is, what about, let's just say, the hermit who just decides to head on up to the Himalayas and do his thing or her thing, and goes out the house and sees nature, animals mauling themselves apart to survive, seeing how the system works in that perspective, and then maybe going back in the hut, reflecting on it or meditating on it right there. Perhaps they may not even have any sort of information, but it's just kind of within them. They're questioning it based on what they're observing over the year after year, how this thing works. And perhaps it probably comes to them, because people were questioning it before, long before the internet was here. So throw even the scriptures aside, maybe there's just this deep intuitive thing, because talked about with you in the past how, as far back as I can remember, I always thought something was wrong here. I just couldn't put my finger on it. But if you grow up, let's just say, in a setting like that, or at some point go or inject yourself into that setting, like a hermit type setting up in the mountains, just one example of many possibilities. Perhaps it just comes to you intuitively. In a wide variety of ways. That's kind of just where I'm at with it. It's like, who knows how anyone really comes to it, scripture even aside, just the random hermit. So I don't know. It's kind of rambling a little bit.
And if you stay by yourself, and let's say you don't decide to join you don't
religion,
go to another cult. I don't know, like another world, like you're in the afterlife, like you're gonna for some people, you can manifest your own reality, but then you're kind of becoming like your own little demiurge. You mess things up, and what have I done, kind of thing. Versus maybe you want to go to a community that already exists. I mean, some people talk about the Paroma or these the Buddhic planes or whatnot. But see, I'm always cautious to join any community. I've been with so many on Earth, which maybe not be a fair comparison, but including religious, professional, and there's always some hidden agendas and hierarchies. And
always.
There might be non-hierarchical communities and Rupaloka spheres with honest, mature souls, no agendas and hierarchies. But you've got to be careful. I mean, the first thing is always check when we communicate with any souls or communities here or there is whether they are enlightened or not. I mean, never join any community of unenlightened souls, right? I mean, that's a no-brainer. But
you got to have that litmus test within you and dish it out and see what you get.
So, it might be safer to stay alone. I mean, I don't know, but it may be fine to temporarily visit them, get further knowledge, as long as there's always an exit, right? But
I weaved in and out of Buddhism, Tibetan, and just Zen, and they were great catalysts, but just a part of my journey. That's it.
Yeah, I think in this huge conscious reality, there's no such thing as a single true path necessarily, but there's a big variety of different choices and paths. Like some of them going downwards lead to suffering and a miserable life. Others lead to peaceful existence with pure creative activities. Others lead to various states of consciousness like union and pure love or staying in pure awareness. Others lead to various formless meditation states. And there's also, the nibbana, like a cessation of any states of consciousness at all. But I mean, see, my worry is kind of that even eternal nibbana may not work, because after spending, like, say, Googles of eons in this formless state where all memories and knowledge will be gone and maybe cause some quantum fluctuation or something where I mean, how did it all start to begin with, right? We just don't, you know, and we may wake up as like this fresh newborn soul with like no prior knowledge and memories, and started this journey of wanting to know ourselves again. And I don't know, I think the safer way is controlled nibbana, where we stay in nibbana for a while, but once in a while you wake up, refresh your memories and knowledge, do some kind of neutral mental exercise without developing any desires or addictions, like, you know, music or math or whatever, just to keep the consciousness in good shape. And then you go back into nibbana. I don't know. There's just these different, I mean, that was when my Buddhist friend was kind of putting some of these thoughts out there. And it's like, I mean, who's to say? I guess everybody has to make their own decision, weigh all the options, and come to their own conclusion. Man. Sure. Don't look at me for answers. But you know, just some of the.
Yeah, well, you still have a bang up outline, Wayne. Don't demean yourself in that way. I mean, right. I think at the end of the day, we between you, Dan, and myself, we all reached the same conclusion: sovereignty and liberation with intention and willpower. I mean, that's really the crux of it. And, you know, don't want to speak for you, but that seems what we've all kind of come to at the end of the day.
Yeah, so like the key thing is to get rid of, you know, gnosis, obviously, and then get rid of the addiction to these thrilling dramas and sensual desires that keep us attached to this like quasi-material world. And addictions are healed by replacement. Like, you can find non-addictive, healthy activities that you enjoy more than the addiction. So basically, what we need to find activities or states of consciousness that do not require the body, and they satisfy us more than these thrills and pleasures of the embodied life. You know, whether it's a practice of like thoughtless meditation or non-material creative activities, it doesn't matter, whatever works. But, you know, you don't need hands and paper to do math there, and you don't need musical instruments to create and enjoy music. I mean, I assume you don't have to have a guitar with strings that vibrate, you know, you can just, I mean, Beethoven composed music even when he was deaf. So, I mean, there's a bunch of creative possibilities that we may not even know about. So,
sure.
But I think in that disembodied state is maybe the desires, addictions, passions, worldviews, these values stay inside us, and then we carry them over. Just because we leave the physical, I mean, you're still you, right? You still have these thoughts and beliefs and cravings, desires. And if you don't take care of that crap here, you're going to manifest something. Yeah. You're just going to come right back into something like this or this, right? If we don't develop any positive conscious states while we're here that don't require a body and keep us satisfied, then we'll be drawn back to the material world by these same sensual passions and addictions. So we got to break free of these attachments and addictions while on Earth. That's really important. I mean, a really good book is not only the Tibetan Book of the Dead, but the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. It goes over all that. And it says you have to do it while you're here. Otherwise, you're kind of doomed to
I mean, it just makes sense, right? I mean, you build up gnosis, you build up wisdom, and then you apply it to your life and the physical with the intention for it to be your guide, your inner guide, you know, your own sovereign inner guide when you leave here. That's it.
Yeah, I think most important, it's important to realize that we have the power to create our own reality using our intention and willpower. I mean, that's like the bottom line. And the material realm is like a collective manifestation of these group of light beings. The astral scenes that the NDEers are experiencing, it's either manifestation of them themselves or other light beings who are trying to make the scene comfortable for them, or both. And the bottom line, according to Buddhism, is it's all manifestation. And what's that? It's a fake or fabricated virtual reality. And that's what the majority of souls are doing here. They're being mystified or simply deceived or deceiving themselves to make it interesting and creating all this drama, confusion, ignorance, and suffering as a result of all that process. And I think they're are probably other more healthy ways to entertain ourselves,
Yes.
right? Than creating all these fake mysteries and exploiting, deceiving, ourselves and other beings, and going to an extreme, like going into like a coma or vegetative state of formless nothingness. And, they're not the only alternatives. You can entertain yourself without mystification and lies. There's endless potential for creativity, art, music, and math. It's also manifestation, but it's fake. So what? Music's all fabricated. It's fake, but it's fun to listen and play. So creativity is beautiful, right? I mean,
Hell yeah.
I don't know. It's unlimited, positive, with no suffering, no lying, no exploiting of other beings. It's healthy and never boring, hopefully. So, I mean, what do we need to do when we die? I mean, nothing. You don't have to do anything. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to go home. You're already home. You are the light. It's like you don't have to return to source. You are original source. You don't have to learn anything or believe in anything external. Just know, just be. I mean, everything, the demiurge, the being of light, the white light, angels, archons, aliens, guides, masters, family, are all external projections, according to this theory, right? Illusions, hallucinations, fabrications of awareness. I mean, do not fear archons. They have no power over you, only the power you willingly choose to give them. And set the power of your unwavering, focused intention on the reality you will into existence. But don't ever forget that you're playing a game. That may be like the hidden meaning of life I came up this the meaning of life. An anagram for the meaning of life is the fine game of nil. So it's just a game of nothingness. Like you're just playing this. I mean, I don't know if it's fine or not, but I guess you're not going to play it if you don't think it's fine. So I don't know. Then I wrote this article called "Wishcraft: Manifesting Reality in the Afterlife." So maybe we can touch on that maybe next.
That would be
next hour or something.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think.
Maybe something will come up that's worthy of conversation. I don't know.
Sure. All right.
Provoke some thought in people. I don't know.
For sure. Awesome. So that's the next section.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have any sections necessarily.
Okay. Well,
but,
what we'll do then, I guess we'll just take a short one. And it'll probably be a little less than 5 minutes this time because we're kind of dipping out a little early. And then we'll continue. I'll try to get back here in about a little under 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll be right back. Thank you, Wayne. Okay. Let's see. Excuse me. Yeah, don't ever listen to me when I say I'm going to be shorter. It just never seems to happen. How you doing over there? You all right?
Oh, great. Yeah.
Great. Okay. There we go. Alrighty, my friends, we are back. Thank you for your patience, and we are back with Wayne Bush, continuing on with episode number 7, Afterlife Solutions and Alternatives. Please be sure to check out Wayne's website, which is trickedbythelight.com. That's trickedbythelight.com. I also would like to welcome Enemy of 322 to the Last Timers Club membership. Thank you so much for joining. Always good to see you in the chat, brother, and I appreciate your support of the channel as well, so thank you. And just so everyone knows, anyone who's a member of the Last Timers Club, we have a stream together, our monthly member stream on February 27th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For further information, you can click the pinned comment above in the comment section and see how they work. That's for, we do levels 2 and 3 include the monthly member stream. So, all right, Wayne, where are we headed, brother?
Well, I was just going to cover the article I had written about manifesting in an afterlife. I called it. I said I've written previously written articles on why I would choose not to go to the white light when I die, and on the so-called void of fullness of pure awareness, the cosmic womb of creation. If one chooses not to go to the white light and is not completely satisfied with the fullness and completeness of the non-duality of the so-called void and wishes to manifest a reality, then how should one go about doing that, and what realities are possible? I said, one needs to be careful lest one becomes another demiurge, an ignorant creator that created an unbalanced world with so much pain and suffering. This is likely the result of the law of duality. For there to be goodness from our limited perspective here on Earth, something that is not good has to exist to provide a reference point or comparison, a contrast. So if one's not careful, one's manifestation could become an infestation. But assuming one wishes to forego the warning and manifest a world, all one needs to do is to use one's power of intention, focus it intensely, and imagine what you will. Literally, you're playing make-believe, and you will make all your dreams come true. You will sire whatever you desire. The thought forms become egregores and will take on a life form of their own. I said, please do not be off-put by the term wishcraft. It's just cute wordplay used for the title and to draw attention to the article. Although it's not necessarily always the case. Witchcraft is sometimes associated with satanic negative energy. Wishcraft should not be confused with witchcraft. Anyway, so you got to be careful of your desires. As the old saying goes, be careful what you wish for. It was desire from one account that caused Sophia to fall. It was Lucifer's desire to be equal to God that caused the fall. Curiosity killed the cat, as the old adage goes. So, and when Pandora opened the box, all diseases came out into the world. Is there a way to safeguard that from happening? If everything is possible in the void, then nothing is impossible. And that would include an all positive reality. This is touched on in the Alice in Wonderland books and series. It is a land of wonder and is indeed a bit like tumbling down a rabbit hole, or more accurately, a wormhole, a portal, or tunnel into a new dimension or universe of one's own creation. But we need to avoid creating a chaotic mess like we find ourselves in today. Like Willy Wonka, it needs to be a world of pure imagination, a world of new physics and laws completely unknown to us, one where everything is completely malleable and able to be created and uncreated at will. Think of the example of an Etch-a-Sketch or Control-Z on a computer keyboard. One needs to be able to immediately undo any effect that turns out to be undesired. And then I had this section on the NDEs and the so-called void. So like when one dies, one typically finds oneself immediately upon death in a type of void, which is known to Tibetan Buddhists as the clear light. It is one's true non-dual nature of awareness. The key is to not be fearful and realize that this may just be the true nature of one's spirit, and one can remain there in a peaceful, neutral state of beingness, or one can manifest any desired reality from this cosmic womb. Some quotes from NDEers in the Void. And I probably should have done this yesterday in the NDEs, but we were running so over time. So maybe this is a good place to put it.
I mean, we barely covered a thing, Wayne. Geez, only 9 hours, bro.
Here's some of the best examples. The void is less than nothing, yet more than everything that is. The void is absolute zero. Chaos forming all possibilities. It is absolute consciousness, pre-creation before the Big Bang. Another said it didn't have an environment, no sense of light, no sense of sound, pure neutrality. It wasn't into the light, it wasn't into the darkness. Another one, vast void that was both dark and light. It was silent and still, strange but peaceful. Another one, I noticed how everything came to be. There was nothing in the void. All of a sudden, the light was created from the void, and I became everything and everyone. Another one, everything was known to me, but that there was nothing at all. It was like being a part of absolutely everything at once, a glimpse into both everything and nothing. Another one said, I entered the void darkness abyss. It was everything, yet nothing. It felt as if it were raw, unmanifested energy. I felt imbalance between the two. I mean, these are like 24 or more different people, and they're all saying the exact thing. It was everything, but it was nothing. You know, it's like, I mean, how do you even wrap your head around that, right?
Sure.
So another one said, if forever were to be an instant or 1,000 years was immaterial and irrelevant, I felt, abide with me here now, for I am at peace and we are one. Another said, no time and existence is purely being. When I die, if this is what I will feel for all of eternity, I await it. Another said, void. It was neither dark nor light, just nothingness, no thoughts, no emotions. Within me was complete emptiness. I seemed to be completely free. See, some people would react to that differently than other people. I mean, for some this person's like, I was completely free, and that was just like awesome to them. For another person, it'd be like, this is like, what's the point?
What else? What else is going on here? The ones that drive me nuts, Wayne, I'll just be honest, are the ones who say they were all knowing and this and that, and then all of a sudden you start hearing, oh well, I was told this, I was given that, I realized
my guide told me.
The guide and Jesus and on and on and on. God, I knew it was God. I knew it was Jesus. And they were just telling me everything. I just knew it. But I'm back here and I don't have anything.
Somebody else just knew that it wasn't God. It's like the Dire Straits song, two men say to Jesus, one of them must be wrong. It's like, I mean, it's like a contradiction of logic. It's like, wait a minute, they both can't be right here. Unless you're talking about like this non-duality type place where it's like, what do they call it? Quantumness, where, it's both yes and no kind of thing. But, so anyway, continue on with a few more really good quotes. Another person said, I dared not think about anything because that would have meant that I would have manifested out of total awareness and bliss. Being in this state was beyond bliss. You want to stay there and not do anything to disturb it. Another person said, I found myself in a black void completely at peace, no pain, no worries, no sense of self. It was fantastic. Another person said, highly conscious in a dark void, but I was not afraid. Apparently, the Buddhists call this the bardo. Another person, pitch black void with me glowing softly within it. I felt complete relief, love, warmth, security, acceptance. I was able to surrender to this darkness without fear. Another one, it amazes me that a dark space, void of people, and being all alone was the most beautiful, loving experience I could ever have. Another one, it was a void, darkness, but yet I felt it contained all light at the same time. I was where I belonged, where I came from. It was perfect. Just to touch on this, because it gets monotonous to hear so many quotes in a row. When he said it was darkness, but yet I felt it contained all light. I got this book. I think I mentioned it maybe the first episode we did, but it's called Catching the Light. And they did this experiment. Don't ask me how they did it. I don't know. It's kind of skeptical. It was actually valid or whatever. But they somehow were able to look into a box that was nothing but light. And what they saw from this experiment was darkness. In other words, like if you're out in space, if you got the light of the sun that's traveling through space, right? But how do we see space? It's all darkness. So in other words, it's
Yes.
possible that pure light and without anything reflected, to reflect off of is perceived as darkness.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think Nikola Tesla said that black is the face of light or something. Dark, or I forget the exact quote, but I think he said something like blackness is the face of light or something. But,
I mean, and I think, well, take it for what it's worth, but I think that's been proven. I mean, just because the problem is our visual spectrum limitations.
Yes.
So
exactly.
we're only running off of this meat suit interpretation.
Limited frequencies.
Yeah, I mean, like beyond belief from what we can see. I mean,
they call it the
ridiculous.
electromagnetic spectrum, and within it, it's just a slim sliver called the God, it was, I had it just 2 seconds ago.
That's okay.
It was taken away from me.
Thanks, Archons.
The visible light spectrum or whatever is just the little sliver within that whole electromagnetic spectrum. But see, that explains, like, for them saying it was darkness, but yet I felt it contained all light at the same time. Well, maybe it was. Maybe all light really is perceived as darkness. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
They're the same, cousins of each other. But so another person said, upon realizing the truth contained in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which I had not read before having my ND, I adopted the doctrine of Vajrayana Buddhism, swore a Bodhisattva's vow. That's a mistake there, buddy. Don't do that. Anyway, and dedicated my life to the benefit of all. This is because the experience I had matched the description of passing through the bardo of death described in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Somebody else said, everything seemed to be coming or existing from the same complete source that I seem to be a part of now. Another one, completion. It was perfecting the harmony in which I was part of now. It was as if my being had become a vacuum, opening up, allowing everything that ever was or was to ever be inside. I was complete. I was what I believe was the highest existence of peace that could ever be. For my mind was silent, and I was simply being and nothing more. I was a part of everything that ever was, and with that I had no expectations nor thought. I was existing within everything and had no form or shape, just a complete perfect state of being. I mean, that may be part of what, like, William Buhlman was saying when he was talking about beyond form or having no form. I don't know.
I think he talked about it being
Tibetan,
that, and it was the Bardo realms, and also that it took him kind of 10 years. I think it was, if you remember correctly, it was like 10 years for him to really reach that point of being able to transcend.
That's incredible.
The astral. This is a guy who,
so he's
Matt
prepared.
Monroe
he's been there. He's done that. Yeah. He knows what to do, and so that's why I'm saying OBEs are a possible tool to help prepare for this. I mean, and meditation. I mean, but it's that's a lot of work. Like you said, it takes a long time.
A lot of work, long time.
And we're lazy, and we're lazy, and we get distracted with life. I mean, some of it's just you got to keep yourself alive,
Yeah, and he was in the inner circle with Monroe. I mean, you got to ask yourself that. I mean, he's on the end, and it's still, according to him, took 10 years. So
I wonder what he would feel like if you asked him the question about was Monroe correct when he talked about the loosh. I wonder what his response would be.
I tried reaching out to him. He doesn't. He has never responded, so I don't know.
Probably got a gazillion emails.
Now he's got
inundated with all that,
and he's pretty much he's admitted that he's semi-retired too. So he's put it in his work.
For sure,
he's doing his thing. The one interesting thing I did like that he brought up was making excuse me, because hearing is the last thing to go. He said his advice is to make a like an audio track or a CD with your voice on it. So because our hearing is the last thing to go before we're fully outside, that he has it set up where his wife or his children if depending on the scenario, or a loved one who will handle make sure that that is played on his deathbed, regardless of whatever the situation is, to help him. And I thought that was a really good, solid advice.
Yeah, sure is.
Intention. Put your intention on a CD or in the audio file on your phone or whatever, and just let it play. Repeat it. Just put it on repeat.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to be. I mean, as much as it's a beautiful thing, and I mean, I'm not going to say it's wrong or whatever, but it's like I would think once you die, you have like all the NDEers are saying you're hyper consciousness. I don't think you're going to forget what we just talked about today. I don't know that you need to have a CD with you reminding yourself. Sure. I think you're gonna know.
You're not
going.
Who
am I to say?
No. I mean, once you kind of reach this point where you see
all
this
backup,
stuff,
just in case.
Yeah,
like I was saying,
I just thought it was a cool thing to add. Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to do it. I mean, so. Some more quotes. Calm, peaceful knowing. I was happier there in the void than I'd ever been on this planet. There was assurance, wonder, and almost a bliss. Another one. I didn't exist, actually. I was aware that I existed only as a thought. It was neither black nor light. It was perhaps a void. I was not afraid. Everything was peaceful beyond understanding. Mm-hmm. Another one. Darkness is just...
I'm sorry. I just want to add, the CD or the audio file, however that works, putting on a repeat. I think it depends on the individual too. Like, if someone feels that that's what would help them, just like all this stuff that we're talking about today, it all depends on the individual and how they want to customize their own journey and whatever works for them. I mean, I think it's a decent tool, but again, at the end of the day, it's all intention, right? I mean,
necessary, right? So right. It's just like the NDE where the person said, "Well, anybody who eats meat can't remain here." I mean, it's you can't make a blanket statement like that for everyone. It's like you said, it's an individual thing. It's subjective, and whatever works for one person. It's like I got a friend who listens to heavy metal music. I mean, he's very spiritual, but he gets like heavy metal music energizes him. For him, he feeds off it. It's good for him. For other people, it could be just too negative. It could be
sure. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Yeah, it's just about whatever resonates. It's all
about intention in the end. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Intention and whatever resonates for you as an individual to go about your path. Yep.
Yeah. So just a few more. Exactly. Just a few more. This one's interesting because it reminds me of the Tibetan Buddha stuff, but because the words are using. But they said that darkness is just a word to describe the void, natural wholeness, or sky-like essence. Another one says it was neutral. It felt like I was there a very long time, or in a timeless type of way. It felt like I'd always been here and would always be here. It seemed I was in there for forever. It's like I could have been in that void for eons and eons and eons. Another said, all I could see was darkness with a void of light. So it was like black and white, except the white was strangely illuminated. Darkness that wasn't darkness, a void that wasn't a void, but was everything and everywhere all at once. Most amazing, profound, deep experience. Another one, I felt unity with everyone and everything. It was the most beautiful thing that could have ever happened to me, the happiest day of my entire existence. I felt pure joy, ecstasy, and bliss. Another one, the darkness was so heavy, it was like tar, like a void, complete lack of creativity, the great nothing and never-ending story, a space of indifference. Three more, a void or place that was neither light nor dark, of no dimension or infinite dimension and form, no dimension. So next to the last one, keep understanding that I was in what the Buddhists call the void, a no place where there is no such thing as time. And then the last one, and that space between a physical body that had already been left behind and another dimension in a void, which I perceived as a black, empty space, now free from the illusion, returned to where I've always belonged, to the huge ocean of luminous consciousness whom we call God. So, that's just, I don't know how many that was, 2 or 3 dozen probably a couple dozen at least, of people that were in the void. And for them, it was just, fantastic.
Chill,
It was
yeah,
peaceful.
just chill.
It could have been
They
there
like
forever. Other people, man, it just becomes like a hell. Yeah.
You know what I think it is? I think it's for them, or at least for some of them, obviously you have two, if not both, or maybe even more that we're just not aware of. You have something that may eat inside of them in their life, and maybe the darkness to them is something like a hell. So they've kind of they're brewing their past or their wrongdoings and allowing it to jump ahead of them unnecessarily. And then you have what the heck was my second point? What was it? Forget it. And then you have and then you have the ones who they're just content. They're fine. It's not something that really bothers them. And then the third one is just this being used to this sensory overload, being used to seeing everything that's around us, like right now, this broadcast, or walking outside and seeing nature. It's just all of this stuff that's going on, and you go from having that to just cut off darkness.
It's kind of like mindfulness. You're being mindful of it's almost like you're walking two states at once. Like you're living life in the physical, and you got to do your mundane, like to chop wood and carry water kind of things. Like you're doing stuff physically, but at the same time, you're kind of aware of what we're talking about right now too. It's like,
some can hack it and some can't. And then some let themselves overthink things, and it all unravels from there. However it plays out.
Yeah, so just, I guess I got the quote here from the Tibetan Book of the Dead that actually talks, what William was referring to, but there's different versions or translations, but this one says, listen, now thou art experiencing the radiance of the clear light of pure reality. Recognize it. O nobly born, thy present intellect in real nature void, not formed into anything as regards characteristics or color, naturally void, is the very reality, the all good. Thine own intellect, which is now voidness, yet not be regarded as of the voidness of nothingness, but as being the intellect itself, unobstructed, shining, thrilling, and blissful as the very consciousness, the all good Buddha. So I don't know, it kind of gives people a little perspective on kind of what he was talking about. But we covered some of the stuff in the religion show. So here's actually just a few, since we're also talking about manifesting reality too. But we touched on a few of these yesterday in the NDEs. But this is really important. There's NDEers who saw that intention. Through intention, they can manifest anything they want instantaneously. So just to reiterate it, like here's one, Dr. Jean Renee H said, travel was easy simply by desire. And Pamela B said it was an energy travel, like we set our intention and away we went. I felt that I could move at the speed of light. It was as if I was propelled by thought rather than body. What existed was pure will. And then Nancy Dennison said, I realize that we all constantly manifest what we call physical reality just by virtue of our thoughts, and that the only reason we are fooled into believing it is real is because of the limitations of human senses. So I experimented with consciously manifesting some more to test this truth. I proved to myself that we do indeed have the ability to manifest what humans perceive to be physical reality by focusing our attention and intention on doing so. Mark H said, what your soul desired to see was filled at that very moment. Everything your soul needed was met before it could be asked. Dwayne S said, as I was being shown how to manifest anything I wanted and that it would be instantly granted, I thought of a piece of my mother's chocolate cake. Instantly, my mom was there with me in heaven, handing me a piece of her heavenly chocolate cake. As my orientation went on, they explained how on that celestial side of the veil, anything we desire is instantaneously provided. We just need to feel the desire. Lori E said, I understood that thoughts create form. Patsy D said, I was in physical reality because it's time for the
Thoughts
physical being.
create form.
Yeah.
Thoughts create distraction and possibly
and
bad intention.
Egregores too.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
Yeah.
I mean, oof.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great topic that everyone should look into. What is it, Mark? Actually, I have the book by me. Mark Savish.
Mm-hmm.
Savage. Egregores. Hell of a book. Guy's a Mason, in my opinion, but doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's a great book.
It's important information book to know. Especially if you want to create your own reality. Mm-hmm. It's like, and like I said, it may become like your own demiurge if things get out of control and don't have a handle on it.
Sure.
Yeah. So Patsy D said, I was in physical reality because it is time for the physical being to mature and accept their responsibility for their creation and to realize that they create their reality. Another one, we are confronted by everything we create. We are that powerful. I was shown that I'm not yet fully able to control my negative emotions in a reality where ultimately everything happens in an instant. So I was sent back to continue my learning. I mean, it's maybe this is like a training ground where we're just practicing, where it's not, everything's in so many, maybe it's not so easy to just like undo immediately instant. I mean, I think you can. I don't think there's any justification for practicing in this kind of this kind of environment. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I don't buy it. I don't buy there's practicing or learning or anything. I mean,
but maybe this is the result of like that kind of creation where we just started doing it and then we forgot that we can undo it, or we've got how. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, we could have. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that everyone contributes to this nightmare, and excuse me, not just here, but also in the astral. I mean, it just seems that our creator being abilities are being used and abused, but we're participating, not knowing how deep we've all gotten ourselves. And then, of course, there were those that came before us, and there will be those that come after us that continue to prop up and help create the both realms, both here and the astral and the components. Maybe it was some crazy challenge. We want to make things as hard as possible for you to forget who you are, and we've all kind of participated in that. I mean, I don't really want to think that, but I mean, I know that we're all contributing either way, whether we like it or not. We're all contributing in this reality to some extent, and have let it happen. So but where the origins come from all this, if it's like a collective thing, or if it's a bunch of different individuals kind of weaving into one desire or intention to have this continue, or have the actual continue, I don't know.
We've had that memory wiped from us.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, but I mean, at the core, this realm. Always, I say this constantly, this realm is dying for you to take it seriously. It is craving your attention every which way you turn, and it's trying to
more energy. It needs more energy just to keep itself sustained.
Which makes me really think that the core of how everything started was diabolical and sick, not necessarily like like, hey, let's roll the dice and we'll create this really creepy reality, and you'll forget yourself and blah 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 blah. No, I mean, it just the lengths that this realm goes and the astral are just ridiculous, over the top. So that's where I divide on the, even though, yes, we're contributing in our own sense, it seems whatever the heck's going on is way bigger.
For it to be a duality, this existence of duality in the yin and the yang, and there's got to be, maybe there's a balance that needs to be maintained, and it's like a oscillation or a swing back and forth. And for there to be just these highs of ecstasy and whatnot, there needs to be a corresponding low. So these beings that have figured this out, they want to stay in that high. They've created this place like we're in right now, or I'm sure there's even worse than this, where for them it's like that sacrifice. They got to get these idiots to come down and do this so that they can maintain their high, and it's at some point it does become extremely selfish for that. But maybe they felt like, well, that's worth it in the end. It's like, I'm either going to stay in this nothingness, which is neutral, or I can have some bad and some good, and I guess in the end maybe it's worth it to have to do that. And even beyond that, I can get a bunch of idiots to go down and do that part while I stay up here. And because that kind of sounds like what some of those NDEers and even the alien experiences were talking about, how they were like vicariously, like that's why they were so interested in the life review and what did you think and all that stuff. And it's like, because we go back and it's like they're living vicariously, like they don't want to come down here and experience it, but it's like it's entertainment to them. It's just like we would watch a horror movie on TV or something, and I don't know, just a possibility.
Yeah, no, it's I leave it all open on the table. I mean, I just, the way I see it is we see the base mechanics of what's going on here. We realize, at least I realize, you realize, and quite a few people in the chat realize that it's really just taking control of your own destiny at the end of the day, when here both trying to initiate that in your day-to-day life, but also crossing over and just playing it safe. I mean, that's really how I look at all this. Just play the safe route.
Thing that kind of,
we could be wrong about so many things. But
yeah, another thing that kind of ties into that playing it safe that I just thought of that I forgot to mention in the NDE was like, there was somebody at one of the local meetings was saying that we had this narrative, somebody was narrating to me, and they explained to them that life here, this is like a seesaw where seesaw goes back and forth, and he says you have to decide how big of a swing you want it to be. In other words, like I was just saying, maybe for you to have these super highs and loving it, but you have to have something. There's got to be something to offset it, right? I'm saying it's like you need that contrast or whatever. And so, but you could choose just to have almost like hardly any swing at all. So you don't have hardly any highs or hardly any lows. Everything's just kind of safe and neutral. And for some people, they would prefer that. They don't want to experience horrible things in life, but then they probably don't have the huge, it's like that bipolar, it's like the huge swings. It's like they could have these, manic depressive, that when they're in mania, everything is one, they're living it up. But then when it swings back down the other way, then all of a sudden there's the
big drop.
Depression part.
Good point.
Which ties into this Janine E, because she said, I did not understand why my thoughts would manifest afterwards. Everything I would think of would appear, and it concerned me. So I made a promise to myself that I would keep positive thoughts and images, because I learned that our thoughts are powerful, either negative or positive. But going back to that Alice in Wonderland example, where in the movie she said like nothing, or in the book, nothing's impossible kind of thing. Like, so in other words, why can't there be an all positive reality? Why do you have to have any negative? Why? It doesn't make any sense. If everything's possible, then that should be possible too. Then to have just an all positive one, or it's like 95% positive, and just every once in a while you get a little reminder just to kind of keep like, oh yeah, this,
Sure. And also just to kind of rewind just a little bit, I'm just thinking, I mean, we've kind of touched on this in the past videos, about just, if you're kind of in a pure existent state and you don't know what, let's say, pain and suffering is versus, this, and all the way to the other spectrum, where euphoria and happiness and joy and love, and you're just kind of in that middle state, just existing, like we've seen in some of these NDEs where before they get interfered with, they're just at pure existence. Perhaps you want to experience something like that. Now, does that, it's explained to us on some level maybe when we're coming in here, or maybe we hear rumors around the multiverse saying, hey, you know, there's this crazy wacky place, but you get to experience something that you've never been able to before. So this is your opportunity. Or we just kind of get sucked in, which is kind of how I feel about it. But I still think that at the end of the day, there's that agreement. So I know I kind of veered off a little bit with where you were headed, but just wanted to put that out there.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. It's, so I don't have like a whole lot left. I mean, I do have some reader feedback when I wrote my article, and I asked them, well, what kind of reality would you manifest? And I got a few people that were talking and, you know, sent me stuff about what their idea of that was. And I don't know if you want to take a break and then go into one final section,
good.
or whether you
that's
just want to
good.
wrap it up.
We're reaching a good break point. Sounds good. Cool. All right, so let's take about 5 minutes, and we'll meet back here. Thank you for your patience, my friend. Go take a stretch, do what you got to do, refill that water, and we will all meet back here in about 5 minutes. Thank you, Wayne. Much appreciated. All right, Wayne. Here we go. How you doing over there? You all right? Think you're muted, brother.
Okay.
You all
Yeah,
right?
I'm doing fine. I'm
Okay,
good.
cool. All right, here we go. Alrighty. Thank you for your patience, my friends, and welcome back. We are going to keep going with Wayne. All right, Wayne, where do we leave off, my friend?
Well, I was just going to read a few of the feedback I got from people
Sure.
after the article. And when I asked them, what reality would you create? What do you want to do, kind of thing. And so one emailer wrote, he said, I agree. Why not exist in a balanced void where one could say manifest a vast, soothing Zen-like garden with many forests and bubbling streams that extend forever? That seems like something far better than a light, dark, 2/3 hell realm lorded over by an insane demiurge. My Buddhist friend has another take on what to manifest upon death. He wrote, all our experiences here on Earth and in the astral realm, whether OBEs or lucid dreaming, it's all fake, all hallucinations, dreams. Our life on Earth is a hallucination too, and there's an infinite amount of other hallucinations on all planes of existence going on in this unlimited awareness. There are no truths in them, nothing really to discover. They are all faked fantasies. Universal consciousness split into multitude of sinners trying to entertain themselves with dreamy, trippy fantasies. That's all. Smiley face. Yeah, if you somehow got into a bad trip, you need to figure out how to get out. But the key point, any drug tripper knows, do not get scared. Always remember that it's all a trip, a fantasy. Nothing is real here. But it's also true that in this trippy game, some beings take advantage and exploit others as long as those exploited believe that it's all for real. All material world, as well as the astral world, is manifested by some light beings, Source and his close co-workers. So what it means is that it's a collective intentional mental manifestation, he says intentional fantasy, that one group of beings manifest and other beings participate in and experience, with the majority of them taking it for real. In other words, something fantasized and faked by one group of beings is taken for granted as true and real by others. A virtual reality game. So who cares what those manifestors are manifesting here? It's all just a fake fantasy. There's not even the least bit of truth in any of it. There is nothing really to learn here. And each of us has as much manifesting power as those guys do once we are released from the limits of this earthly reality game. We can manifest for ourselves whatever fake stuff we like if we really want to entertain ourselves, instead of fooling ourselves into stupid and childish manifestations of those other beings. It says the whole world is only awareness dreaming fake dreams. There's no truth and nothing to know in those dreams whatsoever. The real mystery is the very nature of this awareness, how it exists, what's its cause, but there is no way to know this from inside of the fantasies and dreams. It's like you cannot know who you are in reality from inside your dream, plus the fact our reality is just another dream. If you say that God manifests the world because it wants to know itself, then this is not a good argument, because there's no way this consciousness can know itself through exploring its own fantasies. There is nothing really to learn in these fantasies. There is no way the consciousness can get out of itself, look at itself at a distance and see what it really is, how and where it exists, what is causing it. But it can certainly entertain itself for the eternity with these unlimited manifestations inside its own mind. Because it's all fake. It's a childish fantasy only. There's nothing real and true in it. There is a good word for it, exactly as Buddha said. It's all fabricated. But if you look at how Buddha taught, he almost never engaged into discussing the content of those fantasy worlds, and he himself had no interest in their content. Instead, he always pointed to the core problems: how fantasies occur, is there anything real in them, what is their nature, how they trap and deceive people, how to free ourselves from their magic falsity. The material realm is a collective manifestation of a group of light beings. The astral scenes that NDEers are experiencing is either manifestation of the NDEers themselves or other light beings who try to make the scene comfortable for the NDEers, or both. The bottom line is it is all manifestation. And what is manifestation? A fake and fabricated virtual reality. That's what the majority of souls are doing here. Simply deceived or deceiving themselves to make it interesting, and creating so much confusion, ignorance, and suffering in that process. I don't buy into that. There are other, more healthy ways to entertain ourselves: creating fake mysteries, exploiting and deceiving ourselves or other beings, or, as another extreme, going into a coma, vegetative state of formless nothingness are not the only alternatives. You can entertain yourself without mystification and lies. There is endless potential for creativity, art, music, math. It's all manifestation, but you know it's fake. So what? Music is all fabricated, fake, but it's so much fun to listen and play. Creativity is beautiful, unlimited, positive, and with no suffering, no lying, no exploiting of other beings, healthy and never boring. It is incredibly important to not get caught up in a consensus. I'm sorry, that was the end of his quote. So, yeah, that was William Buman I was about to go into. But so anyway, that's what he said. And then there was another one down here from a reader named Brian. Let's see, right here he goes, my reality that I intend to experience would be a world where no living things are eaten to survive. No need for liquids, solids, or gases to nourish myself. Here on Earth, there is so much fear on not getting enough protein, iron, zinc, vitamin D, etc. I want a body, spiritual or physical, to be complete and perfect. Now, the words perfect and complete are subjective, so everyone is encouraged to manifest whatever form they feel comfortable with. Back to my dream world. I like create music just by my thoughts, and these thoughts, sounds manifest in front of me or even around me. I'll be creating symphonies with other beings around me, basically anything to do with the arts. And he has like a summation.
Energies all around him.
Yeah, we gotta be careful. We said beings around me, but yeah. Here's a summarization from Wikipedia. He says, the arts refer to the theory, human application, and physical expression of creativity found in human cultures and societies through skills and imagination in order to produce objects, environments, and experiences. Major constituents of the arts include visual arts, including architecture, ceramics, drawing, filmmaking, painting, photography, and sculpting. literature, including fiction, drama, poetry, and prose, and performing arts, including dance, music, and theater. Culinary arts, including cooking, chocolate making, and wine making. He said maybe the ego could exist as long as it doesn't create conflict or tension between other beings. The power of intent is our most valuable asset, our most valuable gift. It's a free gift that harnesses the ability to manifest our desires. But there's an old adage saying, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for means that even though you may think you want something, when and if you do finally get it, there may be some unforeseen consequences. Regardless, have fun, be cautious of malevolent spirits that want to trick you, and understand that we are infinite spirits. Like Wayne said, never forget your pure awareness experiencing itself as a separate identity or an id entity, and never forget that you're playing a fine game of nil. There's one from Justin, and Justin said, "Hi, Wayne, how are you? I saw your article on manifesting reality in the afterlife and thought I'd shoot you an email. When I die, I plan on putting out the intention of going to the highest aspect of myself. Hopefully that will bring me to either the 8th or 9th heaven. I believe the 7 heavens are part of the Kanoma belonging to the demiurge and his archons, while the 8th and 9th heaven are the higher realms above the firmament that's separated from the lower realms. I firmly believe that we're all destined to return to the pleroma eventually, but I think when that happens, we will all go together after the Kanoma is destroyed at what the Gnostics refer to as the consummation of the age. I believe we all have the spark of Sophia inside of us, and ultimately she's the highest aspect of ourself, having descended into matter and gaining wisdom through her experiences as all of us. Until that happens, I'm quite fine with remaining in one of the higher realms and manifesting my own reality. I plan on creating my own world similar to Earth, but without the aspect of duality."
His own realm. Without the aspect of duality. I like that.
I would also like to mention that I'm publishing my first book that's scheduled to be released sometime next month. I'd like to know if it'd be okay if I reference your website, trickbythelight.com. You says your website was part of what inspired me to write my book. I'd like to mention in the preface with the intention of making more people aware of your work. Anyway, so yeah, that's...
yeah, that's right. Go to trickbythelight.com, my friends. Check out Wayne's incredible website. Couple decades worth of posted information, and just an invaluable resource.
Yeah. So he said, a follow-up email, he said, yes, for me personally, the Gnostic texts resonate most with me. My understanding of the void is that it's part of the Kanoma and also part of the upper realms, what I refer to as the 8th and 9th heaven. It's basically the part of those realms where nothing has been created yet. The pleroma is something totally separate from the Kanoma, void, upper heavens. Like you said, is the fullness. The pleroma is where the ions exist. I don't believe it's possible to go there during an NDE because I don't believe separation exists in the pleroma. If one were to enter the pleroma, I believe we would merge as one with Sophia, who's our source. Though she's not the source of everything, that would be the monad, the one the Gnostics call the ineffable, unknowable. I believe we're all destined to return to pleroma, even those who haven't woken up, but I think we'll all go together when that happens, as we would lose our individuality at that point. He says, I think the movie Beauty and the Beast was giving us this message. If you consider the beast to be the demiurge, Belle to be Sophia, and the beast's servants to be us humans, you'll recall at the end of the movie that everyone was restored to their true selves, even the beast. I believe part of Sophia exists in him since he ultimately emanated from her. So if all spirit is destined to return to the pleroma, then I believe his spirit will be restored while his ego will be consumed. If you're familiar with On the Origin of the World, it talks about how Yaldabaoth's heavens will fall and he will be thrown into the abyss with the archons, where they will then destroy themselves. This is supposed to happen in the end times, and some of it seems to parallel the prophecies in the book of Revelation. I think this is all predestined, and in that sense, it really is like we're living in a movie. Thank you for allowing me to reference you in my book, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, here's another one too.
That's good. You got a little book coverage there. That's cool.
Oh yeah, I don't know who it is, but this guy, I guess his name's Ivelo.
Make sure you ask him for a book, Wayne. You deserve a copy.
He says, what reality or world would you imagine intend for yourself in the afterlife? He put that in quotes because that was my question, basically. He said, I'm thinking about this a lot, and the main thing is very simple. Non-physical reality is a must. What we call here physical is the root of the problem. It runs deeper than most assume.
Yeah.
He's got a very thoughtful response for sure. I'm actually kind of excited to read it again. It's been so long. He says, I can describe this physical world with a single word: ignorance. We are born knowing nothing, fully dependent on our parents and the society.
Yep.
Many have false self-confidence, and the only sure thing is that we will die and forget, if not all, most of it. While we are alive, we are imprisoned between two fake illusory worlds, the animal nature and the social contract. He says, problems of our animal nature. The core program in our nature is survival as opposed to entropy. Our body's only goal is to survive as organized blob of matter and replicate its DNA in the process at any cost. It must adapt towards the environment regardless of a choice or face extinction. Those that go extinct do not leave their DNA, so our body is inherently programmed by those that survive. He says that, I have to just make sure I read it exactly the way he wrote it. He said, those that go instinct, because he said, you either face extinction, and he says, those that go instinct, I don't know if that was a typo or not, but he said,
instinct,
those that go instinct, like, your instinction or instinctive. He says, those that go instinct do not leave their DNA. So our body is inherently programmed by those that survive. He says,
do not leave their DNA?
Yeah, it says do not leave their DNA. Right. So our body is inherently programmed by those that survive. Just like the idea of the original sin, you become a copy of those that did anything for their own body to survive. He says this body, using our physical brain, is entangled somehow with our true self and true mind. This physical aspect is, of course, expression of ourself in this particular realm, but this makes it very difficult to differentiate you from not you. What choice was really yours, and what was just an instinct of the body left by our ancestor DNA? This is why Buddhism is so concerned with this so-called not self. Your own brain will try to convince you that life is good. You must search for happiness, find love, work hard, fight, etc., etc. It will use even your most intimate desires, dreams, intentions, values, and translate them into one or other form of simplistic survival instinct. Basically, eating, making, money, resources, sex drive. Most people are oblivious to the extent their body controls them. They would say, I love someone, but it's nothing more than a connection their body made because of family bonding or gene hunting. There is something coming from our real us, love, moral values, creativity, conscience, but it's then channeled into this primitive animal nature, which leads only to even bigger disappointment. Our body doesn't understand these things. They are not part of this realm. It just knows attachments, i.e., we are attached to our parents. So the so-called partner that our body desires for procreation, to the job we identify with, to the home we hide in. Our body desires stability since it exists, opposes a world of entropy and constant change. This is what really stands behind the idea of attachments. It's, again, just our simple survival programming kicking in, trying to hold on to something that makes us feel safe in a world that constantly changes. Having such physical double that literally drugs your brain to do things, even if we talk about life as role playing, this assumes that you are in control. But in this reality, we are not. The real you is actually the pawn, the puppet moved by the physical body, which is the real master. This is the major bug in our realm, forcing you to forget who you are and become part of the pointless and endless recycling and fight over matter. I do not consider the idea for the self to have an avatar, ego, role inherently wrong. This is what develops personality on some other level, a way for the self to express individually. I actually believe something deeper is developed in this process. Even behind the role, people are very different. The opposite of this process is, of course, the void, the so-called pure being, but there is no challenge in it. There is no development nor any movement. This is why playing games is so attractive. However, you don't need a physical world to have this. The mental level creates it, and it's much, much bigger than our physical universe.
Yeah, we're so quarantined. We're so cut off.
He said, sadly, the Buddhists themselves do not get the real meaning of their own teachings about the not self.
100%. 100%.
Well,
That's why that is a big reason why I bailed from all of it.
yeah.
I dipped in and out of it, and I was like, no, there's just a lot missing here.
Yeah, me too. I don't consider myself a Gnostic. I don't consider myself a
No,
Buddhist. I don't
no,
consider
neither do
myself
I.
anything. I'm just an independent, free thinker, you know?
That's why people be like, why don't you use the term archons? Well, I just say negative energy extractors
because
or
archon
energy
is
parasites.
It's a Gnostic term.
Yeah,
So
I
you're
call
all of
them
a sudden
parasites.
you're identifying. Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
that's what
archons mean rulers. No one rules over me. It's just that I'm not going to put that out there because that's not my mindset. And you should see, I get comments all the time. Why don't you name them right? Say them, call them what they properly are. Well, you're coming at it from a Gnostic perspective. I'm coming at it from a free perspective.
Yeah.
And they're just freaking parasites. That's it.
Yeah, I almost have like a little bit of
rulers. You think I'm going to say rulers? I'm sorry.
When I started talking about the demiurge and archons and all this stuff, and it just, I mean, I wasn't the originator of any of those terms, obviously, but I don't know how much of it came from me and my website, and people just all of a sudden, because people weren't talking about it, and all of a sudden, I mean, maybe it was Ike, maybe it was somebody else. I don't know.
Ike was a big one.
All of a sudden, people were talking about demiurge this and archon that, and it's like they weren't doing it before. So
Cam just says, I just call them the bad guys. Sure, good enough.
Ankle biters or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, archons mean rulers. That means they are above you. They're not above us. They're pieces of shit. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the bottom line.
He said, sadly, the Buddhists themselves do not get the real meaning of their own teachings about the not self. What we see from the popular faces, as always, is absolute ignorance, just like what comes from all other leaders of humanity. You dissociate with the whole thing, not by stop thinking, becoming empty, not judging, etc. It's simply by differentiating from the physical not self. It's not our thoughts that attach us to something. On the contrary, we draw on in a sea of so many different thoughts, infinite possibilities, infinite rules, and Buddhists actually acknowledge this and treat it as another problem. So how our thoughts attach us to something? Directly, they obviously don't. Our physical brain is manipulating them, which is known as the matrix. However, Buddhism, in my opinion, was infiltrated by atheists who promote it being about not having a soul, which it turns into a total absurdity. In my opinion, the same thing was done to Christianity. It was overtaken again by totally different groups. One must be extremely cautious and try to read the books directly in their original language or find exact translations, which is almost impossible. Avoid the gurus and their own interpretations. And then he says, problems with the social contract. This contract is, of course, built over our animal nature and our physical needs shortcomings. We live together not because we chose to, but because of survival and the potential to become human. Without the society, we can't make it out of the animal kingdom and develop reason and culture. But the other side is we become too dependent on society, which can easily turn against us. In any case, there's no choice involved here either. Without the society, we can't develop long enough memory in order to progress and accumulate reason and knowledge about the world. With all its shortcomings, the society provides you with longer history of the human experience. You just can't achieve this in your mere 60, 70, 80 years of life by yourself. At the same time, one should not forget that the purpose of any society is to protect and propagate itself, mainly its leaders at the price of the sacrificial lambs. Just like nature, it doesn't care about the individual, but only its own survival. You can see it observing your colleagues, friends, or family. Everyone around you has the job to keep you here and force you to think inside the box. If you deviate, if you think for yourself, if you act the way you feel internally, they will turn against you in order to defend the system and its rules. They love you when you are mediocre, when you're down there with them, sharing their ignorance, their belief system, their way of living. This is why people went ascetic in the past. breaking any relationships with the worldly matters. It's just all fake, theater, superficial. Also, society is used better by some than others. For example, some learn how to preserve all their wealth and power using the bloodlines. Most of us are being born, well, slaves working drones. And there's no way to change this, since people are kept purposely at this low level of existence by using media propaganda, force, stress, fear, whatever it takes. They even destroyed the family unit for the common people, the only way to preserve and accumulate power in society through a bloodline. They keep theirs, but we must be just exchangeable units with not family, no country, no culture, no conscience. All these processes happening now, they are not random. They are not about ideals or some sort of social struggle and progression. It's just as it's always been, struggle for power. But here's the deal. You must walk the path and understand all of this on your own. Realize your own ignorance and the collective madness. It's a process, and society plays a huge role as a mirror. He says there's also a constant opposition between these two factors, the good cop and the bad cop. Society wants to control nature in order to prosper and create safety for the people. Using quotes, since quite often we get exactly the opposite. We live in the worst environment and worst bodies in human history. Most people have either physical or psychological illnesses or both. At the same time, I wouldn't go with this Mother Nature nonsense either, since nature is just as hostile, immoral, and lacks wisdom. Some mistake this blind process of evolution with wisdom. How moronic and, of course, ignorant. Both are bad. It's false dualism. We must constantly try to balance between the two, but of course, most of it's not up to you, but the society. So for me, these are key elements. Understand why the physical reality is inherently fallen and can't be fixed so we can live happily ever after. On the contrary, you're born slave of the body and the society in this realm, and there's no way around it. Born also into amnesia and ignorance about yourself, about what this world is. And the only purpose of all, keeping the wheel samsara spinning, keeping the matter recycling, nothing more really. There's no goal, just survival. Even worse, you can't imagine your own goals, since the physical system itself dictates them via the two simple opposing forces, organized matter versus entropy. We exist in this very sick and thin balance between the two, life and death, but not for too long to actually understand the game. It's all just an illusion, figures of sand, constantly created and destroyed while we desperately try to hold on it. And it's not even your own illusion, your own imagination, your real fight. It's someone else's. But maybe this is exactly the thing that makes it appealing for so many people here. They do not want to be in control. They want to be ruled over by parents, politicians, authority, the nature, gods, lovers, friends, etc. This makes it more interesting to them, more real maybe. Someone else to be actually in charge of their dreams, someone else to tell them what to do. They believe the external more than they believe in themselves. My observation is that on a psychological level, this is one of the most powerful human traits. Our history is all about games of control, power, and of course, we live in exactly the same situations today. Most people lack will on their own. They prefer their will to become part of the will of a group and play these drama games, surrendering to their most primitive instincts like fear and anger, desperation and hope. This is another aspect of getting out. Build will on your own. Stop depending on external forces and expectations. Your intentions should be very specific towards yourself. It can't be general or a product of a collective belief. Nobody else can create such thing for you, which means nobody else can save you. Just one last paragraph. There's this question in our mind: should we try helping others? Can they be helped? To a huge extent, I don't think so, since they do not really want help. They made it that way. It's a matter of their own choice. In my opinion, the idea of choice is very important in this realm. I say idea since it's an illusion like everything else. By saying choice, most hide their own weaknesses and dark desires. We've all lived with people that have this objectively dark, destructive behavior. For example, they drink too much, they smoke, they do not eat properly, they do exercise, I think he meant to say they don't exercise. They are irresponsible. They are gullible and easy to manipulate. You know it's wrong, they know it's wrong, but they just don't have the will. On the contrary, this sucks them even deeper, and on some level, they even enjoy it in a sick way. There's strange psychology involved here. They want someone to tell them what to do, but at the same time, they refuse the truth since they see their own weakness that way. So they want to be lied, and this feeds the darkness. People here just love any sort of a lie in order to keep this condition. You can do nothing but move along and do not take part of this behavior. You do this towards a person, you should do it towards the whole world, since it's all like that. I very, very rarely see a quality person here, like they're all gone. And what is left is frankly just trash. Yet this is bad, but it happens for a reason. And in a way, it proves something important, that we are really free. These people left here deserve and desire to be here. I don't buy the idea of the prison planet. I see it more like drug addicts and drug lords. It's just a transaction, like the idea about selling of the soul. In some sense, all addicts do exactly that. And how to reach someone without a soul, let them be who they are. Let yourself be who you are. So he had a lot to say. Are you there? Uh-oh. You awake? Hello?
You okay?
I can hear you.
All right.
Did you hear all that?
The microphone. Yeah, I heard you. The microphone disconnected in the middle of our talk, so I'm sorry.
Your microphone did or mine?
Yeah, mine did. Yours is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I installed this.
Are we still live?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay,
yeah, we're fine. It. Trust me, everything is on my end. All that
good.
You said, it came through fine.
I don't want to have to repeat it. That's a
No. You're good, brother. You're good. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's I installed this new software called NDI to help with to be like a studio monitor, because there's no point in going over it during the live stream.
Yeah,
it was basically I'm trying to set up something where on break, or if we have panel discussions where people call in through Zoom, that I can isolate the audio where we don't have to mute our microphones. We can essentially talk during breaks, or people can come in and all that stuff. So yeah, it's just, yeah. And ever since I installed it and haven't even explored how to set it up, it occasionally it just takes over something in the streaming software. So it's just bullshit. Just bullshit. Yeah. I don't want to drone on about that stuff.
he actually replied to this other comment, and we can I'll read that, and then we could just as a couple songs I wanted to quote, and then that's the end of it. So he said that he says that I like challenges, and everyone finds them in different ways. A typical example are sports where people love to compete. So this is another kind of dualism that binds us. While the previous group wants it easy, others want it difficult. And actually, this is what my friend explained to me about gaming. Mm-hmm. Since I'm in this business, I asked this friend who's a huge gamer how to make an addictive game that people want to play. He said, there must be something for these two types of people. The first wants it to be easy, so the game should make them feel more powerful, capable, smart than they actually are. But at the same time, the game should create a challenge for the other group of people that prefer to struggle on their own and pay the price for every little success. Although the game is not balanced at all on physical level, it balances itself out because of metaphysical factors, i.e. our individual consciousness and what kind of game it prefers to play. Easy, difficult looks to be the most major duality that is created. Even the rules of the game doesn't matter so much. As you can imagine, both groups will have their own pitfalls on the path. How long would you challenge yourself in such unfair game, putting so much effort for nothing? And how long the easygoing group will just go through life without thinking and doing even the minimal work? Despite our own personal preferences, we are forced towards some sort of balance and fairness. You can't be too lazy, but you can't win a desperate fight either. there's this kind of balance that seems to everything. But he says, in my opinion, we live in a time where these two groups are splitting more and more. Balance cannot be sustained any longer, and it's painful for both groups, but it's for the better, in my opinion. It will make both groups realize that the situation is dysfunctional. If we do not have the same main goals and work towards them, there's no point to play the game together at all. The easygoing group will accept the totalitarian system that's in the works, in my opinion. Those that put the effort and work will depart and leave this place for good. The ruling elite is here for one simple reason. The huge majority wants it easy. They are ready to sell themselves for safety and conveniences, and the physical reality just amplifies the situation, although generally speaking, this is on mental level, of course. But when you're so weak as a human, it's even easier to push these sorts of agendas and pray over the lack of personal responsibility, laziness, fear. He says, yep, while alive, it's a prison. You just said previously it wasn't a prison, but anyway.
Wide open.
While alive, it's a prison. Even worse, since in a normal prison, they can't steal from you your identity and memories. This is why it's important to prepare for death when you are free from the body, especially in these times we live in today. Maybe I'm negative, but I think it will become only worse. We had a good cycle, i.e. a lot of smart people worked for creating this modern world we enjoy, especially in the US. Now it's over. The majority kept it easy, just consuming, allowing very negative things to happen slowly and now fast. At this point, there's no going back towards the old normal. Society everywhere is fragmented. There's no common language. I'm trying to adapt, but of course, all of us have a cross line. At some point, one would prefer, so I don't know, it starts getting really political. I guess it's going away from what the real topic is. But
if it gets political, something's wrong.
Yeah. So anyway,
I don't know how anyone gets to that point and still sees politics as anything at all relevant.
Right.
Just my opinion,
Yeah, I forgot what he written. It's been so long, and I don't sit there and review my notes before I come on necessarily.
I'm not crapping anyway.
No, I know you are. You're crapping on him.
yeah, exactly.
So anyway, just two songs that jumped out at me. One of them was from one of the listeners to this podcast, and he mentioned the song "Fantasy" by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Mm-hmm. And I looked at the lyrics, and they're, it depends on, they're kind of using a metaphor at one place, but anyway, they say the song goes, "Every man has a place in his heart. There's a space, and the world can't erase his fantasies. Take a ride in the sky on our ship, Fantasy. All your dreams will come true right away, and we will live together until the 12th of never. Our voices will ring forever as one. Every thought is a dream, rushing by in a stream, bringing life to the kingdom of doing. Take a ride in the sky on our ship, Fantasy. All your dreams will come true miles away. Our voices will ring together until the 12th of never. We all will live forever as one. Come to see victory in the land called Fantasy. Loving life, a new decree. Bring your mind to everlasting liberty. As one. Come to see victory in a land called Fantasy, loving life for you and me, to behold to your soul's ecstasy. You will find other kind that has been in search of you. Many lives has brought you to recognize it's your life now in review. And as you stay for the play, Fantasy has in store for you. Glowing light will see you through. It's your day, shining day. All your dreams come true. As you glide in your stride with the wind as you fly, give a smile from your lips and say, I am free. Yes, I'm free. Now I'm on my way. Come to see victory in a land called Fantasy, loving life for you and me, to behold your soul's ecstasy. You will find other kind that's been in search of you. Many lives has brought to you. Many lives has brought to you. Recognize it's your life now in review. Now, I don't agree with everything because it's like, I don't know, it kind of is implying it's kind of new agey. Earth, Wind, and Fire kind of had a little bit of a new age bent to them. But he's talking about fly away in a ship, so basically kind of that has that UFO alien, fly away in our ship fantasy. But I kind of look at that as being a metaphor. It's there's love ship and friendship, and those don't have to be physical, right? You're just using fantasy as like a vehicle to escape is the way I'm kind of interpreting it.
Yeah, no, and then there was it ELO? Yeah, I think ELO had a lot of symbolism with that too. Or maybe I'm
Oh well, they
mixing
had
it up.
their album Out of the Blue, which I absolutely love. Out of the Blue and Grand Illusion. I used to come home and listen to those albums all the time. And Out of the Blue had this huge UFO on the cover.
Yeah, on the front of it. Yeah,
Huge UFO, and that's like their logo is the UFO.
Yeah.
And then in the Grand Illusion, they had the song "Come Sail Away," and it's these. You see, because at first I thought they were angels, but to my surprise, something about the starship and they headed for the skies. And it was like he thought they were angels, but then he realized they were aliens. Anyway, and then the last thing I wanted to mention is this. It's from Willy Wonka, the song "Pure Imagination," where he says,
that song.
Yeah, he's like, "Come with me, come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look and you'll see into your imagination. We'll begin with a spin, traveling in the world of my creation. What we'll see will defy explanation. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to, do it. Want to change the world? There's nothing to it. There's no life I know to compare with pure imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be."
You truly wish to be.
Now, you can criticize it and say, well, he's the wizard, he's the demiurge, that's Willy Wonka. And he says, "Come with me." Mm-hmm. It's like, you don't want to go with some other entity. But I mean, if you just take the song for its basic idea, which is, pure imagination will set you free,
Yeah. Pure
it's
imagination.
It's easy to dissect something and tear it apart.
Take out the bullshit and realize the nuggets in there, the gold nuggets.
Yeah.
Just as a reminder, everyone who's listening, Wayne's website, trickedbythelight.com, a must-see for anyone trying to research this Matrix reincarnation soul trap.
I hope so.
Oh, it is.
Otherwise, all those years were for nothing.
Oh, it wasn't for nothing. I could promise you that. The way I've always looked at my channel is if it can impact just one person, that's all that matters.
Yeah,
that's the way I've looked at everything. Yeah.
I mean, I was touched by the person that said that they've listened to these podcasts that we've done, like when they go jogging or whatever they're running. Mm-hmm. So if somebody cares enough to listen, like one person said they watched or listened to the interview with the demiurge guy that they've listened to it like 5 times. So, I mean, there are a handful of people out there that to them it does mean something to them. And
even more than that. I mean, even more than that. I at first, like I just said, it was all about just reaching out to that one person here and there, and it's kind of cascaded. I mean, the information resonates because it makes sense.
Yes.
It connects for a reason because of life experience and going through the day-to-day and being able to question things as if you would question almost anything else, like the system as a whole, everything that's going on here. And then applying it, what you've learned here, into what's going on behind the scenes and things like NDEs or astral projection or DMT trip reports or high dose mushroom trip breakthrough reports, life between lives / past life regressions, pre-birth memories. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And that's where the truth kind of is revealed and those patterns emerge.
Yeah.
We may be off about a few things, but I think for the most part, we're pretty spot on with a lot of.
And I don't have a religion to push on anyone. It's like I don't have an organization. Hey, come to our church and worship with us and. Tithe, a certain portion of your, what I'm saying? It's like, I don't have a dog in the fight. It's like, I'm not trying to push any one belief on any. Matter of fact, I'm still a little confused. It's like, I don't know exactly what I choose to do either. So I'm asking, this is one thing I want to mention too, is like, we're going to do the follow-up show next week on questions and answers. And so if anybody has a world that they have in mind, a world that they're going to create or what their plan is, send it to me. And maybe we can get some feedback and share some, because this is important to find out. Maybe somebody's got a great idea or I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, hearing anything or outside perspectives on what may build upon or even destroy what we've talked about is
Yeah,
always open. I mean,
boy,
it's all open.
I just want the
Mhm.
truth, and I realize I'm humble enough to realize that I don't know everything,
Yep.
and that there.
Yep.
I mean, people that, like a crazy man doesn't realize they're crazy, or like a person that
Hmm.
is blinded by. I mean, the person that's ignorant or whatever, they're blinded by their own ignorance. Like maybe it's something I haven't thought of. Maybe there's obviously way more
Yeah.
intelligent people out there than myself, or more knowledgeable people.
Mhm.
So if you're instead of being negative and say, oh, this guy's an idiot, complete fool, why don't you help me and share something that you know that I don't? You know what I'm saying? If
Yeah,
there's an error in my
100%.
thinking, help me, So,
Yes, that I'm totally on board with that. That's how I see it. Maybe there's some little nugget out there or some pattern that we're missing
right.
that perhaps makes things viewed completely differently than where we're at right now. I mean,
Yeah.
frankly, I think it's fairly cut and dry, but maybe there's some pattern. Like if someone, if someone just presents one resource to me and says, "Oh, well, this is the answer," I'm most likely going to say, "Okay, I'll look at it." But if you can show patterns and consistency with information, multiple sources, and that it may lean in another direction, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's take a look. But one single thing is likely not going to divert me from. I mean, I just think no matter how this all ends, however, wherever it leads, when we leave here with natural death, it's really just, I mean, sovereignty and liberation and intention and willpower seems to be just the safest option, insane option. So we don't fall back into the illusion and the manipulation, the deception, all that stuff. So what will be, will be. Yeah.
Exactly. And so anybody
Mhm.
that has an idea of what they want to manifest or any of that kind of stuff, just send them. My email is
Mhm.
Wayne J. Bush at protonmail.com.
Mhm.
It's WAYNEJ, the letter J, BUSH at
Great.
protonmail.com. So, yeah.
Great. Yeah. Shoot Wayne an email and
We'll share it next week.
Yeah, when we have, and if anyone wants to join the open um discussion panel next week, it's going to be Saturday the 26th of February. Sorry, Saturday, February 26th, 2022 at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's Saturday, February 26th, 2022 at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Given what has happened on the channel over the last few roundtable discussions, it's going to be a little bit more. It's not that we want to screen answers or screen questions. It's just, if you've been talking in the chat and been around, basically you're just going to have to talk to either somebody else before you come in, or at the very minimum, you're just going to have to put in the chat, "Hey, I want to call in." And as long as you've been here even for an episode or two, that's cool. It's just we can't take the chance of having everything shut down. And I wish it was different. I mean, part of me wants to maybe even do it on Odyssey, and then it's really just not going to be an issue at all. But I don't want to feed any of the troll bullshit, or those that try to wish to take things down here. I mean, kind of like what I left in that message that I shared with you yesterday, Wayne. This is bigger than everyone here. It's just what really matters in the end is getting the information out there so people can go out and research on their own, make their own decision, see it for themselves, and do what they got to do. because above all else, for me, that's the most important. So, if you want to be involved in the chat next weekend, shoot me an email. Okay, just put in the subject of the email. Let's see, Wayne Bush panel. Just put Wayne Bush panel in the subject of the email, and it's foreverconsciousresearch@gmail.com. That's foreverconsciousresearch@gmail.com. And all I need to have is your Zoom information. I'll add you in there and then just bring you into the panel, and it's no big deal, because it really sucks that we can't have video feeds for people that want to come on, or have their avatar on their account and stuff like that. But that's kind of where we've reached a point with all this. Like, I have to disable all that, and that's for the protection of the information, not censorship, but just the protection of the information. So I want everyone to be able to call in and just throw the link out there, and just whatever happens. But, many of you have seen what's going on here, and I'm not going to put up with that bullshit, and I'm not going to risk all this information being deleted or the account being terminated, for a couple of assholes out there who want to ruin shit. So, and nor will I feed it. And anyone out there, just, I'm not trying to sidetrack too much, but anyone out there, don't feed it. If they come on and they say something fucked up, don't worry. I'll mute them, I'll delete them, I'll remove them, but don't acknowledge it, because that's all they want. They want us to react. And when they don't get the reaction, you're not feeding them. It's parasitic behavior, actually. Just
like what we've talked about. Yeah.
I mean, it's textbook. So, if someone says something ridiculous, a racist slur, whatever the case may be, don't acknowledge it. If you're on the panel, don't worry about it. I'll mute it, or a mod or a admin will take care of it. But don't even acknowledge it, because that's what they want. And this is the only time I'm going to talk about it, because I really want us to have a really productive conversation next weekend together. So just call in early, and it would be great to have. We'll just try and work out like a pre-screening process, which, can't wait to waste my time doing that. All right, let's roll. Next, Wayne.
Oh, that's it. I just gave my email, and it's just, I hope everyone enjoyed the series and got some valuable information, or at least got them thinking about stuff that maybe they hadn't considered before, or just in general found value in it. That's all. I hope it was good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. I really, truly, deeply appreciate you letting me come on and spend 9 hours plus yesterday talking.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody else would do that. So these deep dives, they really do, like somebody said, if you just listen to 9 hours of this and still think, certain things, then you're just, there's so much evidence there to support this. So, and just to go on in an hour and then try to, tap dance my way around all these different topics and just give a little bit of evidence for each one, that's not as convincing as to just do the deep dive. So I thank you so much for this.
Dude, Wayne, it's honestly, it's my honor to be able to have you on. I'm really happy. When I sent the email to you and you agreed to do this, it was, can't thank you enough. I mean, you were a huge part of my journey, just was like Dan was. And I mean, thank you. Just thank you so much for being you, and you've worked with me and made it easy. We've had delays and stream times and everything, and you've been more than accommodating, and I thank you for your time throughout this entire process. And we'll have our discussion next week, the open panel where people can call in. But we also talked about doing some other things down the road, time permitting, obviously, maybe later in the year. And there's some really interesting stuff you got out there that we want to dig a little deeper in. And I think, this whole series acted as a crash course for those trying to see the soul trap or trying to wrap their head around it. And it kind of gives that, even though it's like a ridiculous amount of hours we've spent, it provides that footprint for the individual out there who wants to try and prove this to themselves, or at least be open to the idea, or maybe get them from the point of being on the fence to being more in the know, or at least in the understanding category, and realizing that they have a bigger power behind the scenes with all this, and that all they got to do is just punch through that and use it now in their daily life or weekly life. It's not the whole obsession thing. Don't obsess over it. You still enjoy your life, but you think about this stuff and then cast your intention out there. And in the long run, you're setting yourself up to the most successful outcome possible. And that's you as an individual, every single person out here listening. This whole series was designed to show kind of the guts of the soul trap, and for every person to take it and make it their own, and realize what's going on. Like, we're hearing one thing that is the base message in things like, let's just say, near-death experiences, and then when you're dissecting them, you see something else. And we can say that about all of the other topics that kind of coincide and group together and have those patterns for us to be more knowledgeable in the topic, to feel comfortable in knowing that, maybe there's some things that, I'm sure there's plenty of things that we get wrong along the way with all this. Or maybe we're more closer than we think. But at the end of the day, it's like, no matter what you believe or what anyone believes out there, it's just about taking the common sense approach for when you leave here. It can't hurt. It's not going to do anything to you. All you're going to do is just put your intention out there to get out of here at the time of natural death and liberate yourself with a sovereign intention. I mean, where things go from there, who knows? I don't know. Nobody knows. We really don't know all of everything that's going on here, but we have a very, very base understanding that it's parasitic and that we are more powerful than we've ever been led to believe throughout our lives. The system wants you to think, wants everyone to think that we don't have this creator being ability within us, when in fact it's nothing further from the choice. We have so much inside of us, and we will do what we need to do for ourselves as individuals. That's it, right? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but any closing remarks, Wayne?
No, just once again, thank you. And if anybody has any kind of feedback whatsoever, like, they enjoyed the series or they didn't agree with it, but whatever, just say any kind of feedback. It doesn't have to be like, what your exit strategy or any of that kind of stuff is going to be. What afterlife you want to manifest after death. Just if it's just any experiences you've had or anything that that you might find valuable to the research. I mean, just say anything, you can send it to me. That's cool too.
Great. So, yeah. And what's you want to drop your email one more time?
Yeah,
Wayne?
one more time. It's WayneJBush@protonmail.com.
Great. And your website is trickedbythelight.com. That's trickedbythelight.com. Really quickly, just want to add in there to everyone out there, check the description tab. There is a bunch of links there. There's a DLive link where there'll be exclusive streams coming on that platform in the near future. There's also Odyssey, where I have already done a few platform exclusive streams that can't be really discussed here. And then there's, of course, YouTube and 2 backup channels, which are also in the description. And I suggest hitting the bell and selecting all, so that, should anything ever happen here, at least you'll get notified. And there's a Twitter and Instagram and a Twitch where once in a while I'll play games on there. And there is a website coming soon. It's going to be more community driven. There'll be a members section. There'll be a lot of different things. We'll have a chat there, a forum. It's in the works. It's taking some time. It's kind of like a solo project behind the scenes that I'm trying to complete, but I would suspect in the next couple months it'll be there. So I'll also add really quickly, anyone who wants to be added to the mailing list for the website updates and how all that goes, just send me an email, foreverconsciousresearch@gmail.com. That's foreverconsciousresearch@gmail.com. There's no channel in that, and just put in the subject email list, and then send it. Say, I would like to be added to the email list, and I'll put you on a list. And once things go live, or that I have a URL, I have a URL, but once the page is up there, then we'll be good to go. So, and if you don't mind hitting the like button on the way out, if you found this information helpful, it can get these types of videos into more people's feeds around YouTube. And I think that'll be it. So don't forget Wayne's website, trickedbythelight.com. And Wayne, thank you so much for sticking in there through all this. I can't thank you enough. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing you again next Saturday. We all look forward to seeing you again next Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Lastly, that link to the stream is available on the home page of the channel. So if you'd like to set a reminder, feel free. You can also set a alarm reminder in your phone, because sometimes YouTube notifications work, sometimes they don't. And that's about it. And one last thing. After all that, there are channel memberships here if you on YouTube. So if you'd like to join the channel memberships, you can get access to the Last Timers Club perks. And for levels 2 and 3, they also include monthly members live streams, where once a month we'll get together for an hour, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours or longer. It depends on the day, how I'm feeling. But I share just different information there. Nothing is ever going to be held back on this channel. If it's important and pertinent to the whole Soul Trap thing, there will never be a dollar paywall behind it. So, but if you want some additional information and kind of a more personal interaction, that's what the channel memberships are there for, and that's what the website will be there for the membership section down the road. So feel free to check that out. And there is one last thing. I have an address for, there's a few of you out there who've said, do you have a way we can send you mail or something? That is in the description now. So if you'd like to send something through mail, US mail, you're more than welcome. That address is in the description. And that's it. Thank you again, Wayne.
Thanks.
All right. We'll see each other again soon. All right, my friends, hang in there, relax, have a good week ahead, and we'll see you next weekend. Thank you.